we are getting started right away. May I request all of you to settle down? Good evening once again, everyone, and a hearty welcome to the most prestigious business summit and awards night of Kerala's business scene, the Dhanam Business Summit and Award Night, renowned as the D-Day. We are so delighted that we are back with a bang after 2 years, 2 years which were longer than any of the 2 years any of us have had, any time in life. So after 2 long years, we are back here. So many familiar faces, so many new faces, and that's the hallmark of this evening, celebration of all relationships with the addition of so many new entrants in the business scene of Kerala, and that's what makes this evening such a special celebration. നിങ്ങൾ ആരും തന്നെ ഈ സായാഹ്നത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് കൂടുതൽ മുഖവുരയൊന്നും ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു തരേണ്ട ആൾക്കാരല്ല എന്ന് എനിക്കറിയാം. And also, we're getting started with the entertainment part of the evening right now, and we'll get into the more serious, whatever you're looking forward to, that part of the evening a little later. So we'll save all the formal introduction for that time. For now, I'm delighted to bring on stage a very, very special artist and storyteller. His name is Satish Krishna, and usually നമുക്കറിയാം ധനത്തിൻ്റെ ഇവൻസിലെല്ലാം നല്ല സംഗീതവും നല്ല നൃത്തവും ഒരുപാട് വളരെ വ്യത്യസ്തരായിട്ടുള്ള കലാകാരന്മാർ വേദിയിൽ എത്താറുണ്ട്. എന്നാൽ ഇത്തവണ ആ വ്യത്യസ്തതയെ ഒരു നെക്സ്റ്റ് ലെവലിലേക്ക് നമ്മൾ കൊണ്ടുപോവാണ്. ബിക്കോസ് വി ആർ presenting to you a sand artist today. He's going to tell us beautiful stories, and I'm guessing that some of it is also going to be about Dhanam. So, ഞാനിങ്ങനെ verbally ഒത്തിരി കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയേണ്ടി വരില്ല. He's also going to tell us some other beautiful stories. Let's see what's in store. Presenting to you Mr. Satish Krishna, who's all the way come from Munnar, and he's been a sand artist for more than 10 years. ഒരു ദശകത്തിലേറെ അനുഭവസ്ഥനായ ഒരു സാൻഡ് ആർട്ടിസ്റ്റാണ് ഇന്നിവിടെ നമുക്കായി പെർഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ലേഡീസ് ആൻഡ് ജെന്റിൽമെൻ, ലെറ്റ്സ് ഹിയർ ഇറ്റ് ലൗഡ് ഫോർ മിസ്റ്റർ സതീഷ് കൃഷ്ണ. Satish, ഒളിച്ചു നിൽക്കാതെ ഒന്ന് മുന്നിലേക്ക് വരൂ. I really want to introduce you to this amazing crowd this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it loud for Satish Krishna, who put up that show for us. Satish, എനിക്ക് ഒരു റിക്വസ്റ്റും കൂടി ഉണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ സതീഷിനെ അവരെ നേരിട്ട് കണ്ടു കഴിഞ്ഞു. ഇനി ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് ഒരാളെ ലെറ്റ്സ് മേക്ക് ദം ഓൾസോ എ പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദിസ് ആൻഡ് ഇതിൽ ഒരാളെ ഒന്ന് റീക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ നമുക്കൊന്ന് ശ്രമിച്ചാലോ? ഹൗ വാസ് ദാറ്റ്? എങ്ങനെ സതീഷ് ഒരാളെ ചൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നോ അതോ വോളണ്ടിയർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറയണോ? ഓക്കെ, ആരെങ്കിലും ഒരാൾ സ്വന്തം മുഖം ഇവിടെ സ്ക്രീനിൽ പതിയാൻ റെഡി ആയിട്ടുള്ള ആരെങ്കിലും ഒരാൾ ഒന്ന് മുന്നോട്ട് വരുമോ പ്ലീസ്? ഫോർ ദിസ് ഓഗസ്റ്റ് ഓഡിയൻസ്. ദാ ഒരാൾ കടന്നു വരുന്നു. നല്ലോണം ഒന്ന് കൈയടിച്ചേട്ടൻ. ദിസ് ഇസ് ഗോയിങ് ടു ബി ലിറ്റിൽ ട്രിക്കി ഫോർ സതീഷ്, ഐ ഗെസ്, because he has a lot of intricate features on his face, ഒരു chiseled beard and you know a lot of specific things on his face. So let's see how this is going to work out. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മളിൽ ഒരാളെ കൂടെ റീക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്തതിന് ശേഷം നമുക്ക് സതീഷിനെ ഫ്രീ ആക്കാം. And so, thank you, Mr. Satish. And I really want you to come and pause a moment before the audience so that all of you can see what a fascinating creation this is. Loud round of applause for Mr. Satish, and thank you. I'd like to know your name, sir.
Thank you, Satish bhai. കാരണം ഇത്രയും ദൈവാനുഗ്രഹമായ ഒരു കലാകാരൻ നമ്മുടെ മുമ്പിലുണ്ടായത് ഒരു ഭാഗ്യം തന്നെയാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഇനിയും ഒരുപാട് നാളുകൾ ഇതുപോലെ ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കട്ടെ എന്ന് ആശംസിക്കുന്നു, ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. എൻ്റെ പേര് ഫിജീഷ് കുമാർ, കണ്ണൂർ.
താങ്ക് യു സോ മച്ച്. എന്തായാലും ഇത്ര ദൂരത്ത് നിന്ന് നമ്മുടെ പരിപാടിയിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കാൻ വന്ന ഒരാൾ തന്നെ became the model for this evening. Thank you so much, and thank you once again, Mr. Satish. Allow me to take stage. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing the 14th edition of Dhanam Business Summit and Award Night, and this is the most prestigious business summit of Kerala that celebrates not just entrepreneurship but also success in the business scene of Kerala. And this is presented to you by Dhanam, which is Kerala's premier business magazine. I know any more preface or introduction would be really, not necessary, because all of you are really aware of the significance of this evening, particularly also because we are coming back after a break of 2 years, unheard of, unseen of kind of 2 years, and we are so delighted to see all of you gathered here. And this evening is going to be an unparalleled mix of stimulating talks, celebration of business success, opportunities for networking, and also exchange of ideas. This evening really wouldn't have been possible without our really large-hearted, generous sponsor, and I would like to take a moment to appreciate and acknowledge them here before we kickstart this evening. Our diamond sponsor today is LIC of India. Our gold sponsor is IBS Software. Our silver sponsors are V-Guard, Indian Oil Corporation, Provident Housing Windward, Cochin Special Economic Zone, Group Miran, Cochin Shipyard, and Edu World. We also have ROCA, ESAF, AVA, Lunas, KBIP, and BPCL joining us as silver sponsors. We also have our OOH media partner, that's Aishwarya, and our TV media partner, which is Dhanam TV. You will be watching a telecast of this event on Dhanam TV soon. And now, let's take a look at some audio visuals.
I've been associated with Dhanam magazine for a long time, and every time I come for this business summit, the functions are held so professionally, so eloquently, very elegantly.
I can say with absolute authority, Dhanam magazine has been very meticulous in ensuring that the right kind of people are identified who have excelled in their own business and professions, both in India and abroad, and have achieved substantial heights of excellence, which shall be a model for many to emulate and follow.
Dhanam magazine entrepreneurship കൂട്ടാൻ ആൾക്കാരെ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നു. കാരണം അതിൻ്റെ അകത്തുള്ള ആർട്ടിക്കിൾസ് യങ്സ്റ്റേഴ്സിനെ, ന്യൂ ജനറേഷൻ യങ്സ്റ്റേഴ്സിനെ അതിലേക്ക് ആകർഷിക്കപ്പെടുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് പുതിയ ബിസിനസ്സുകളും പുതിയ വെഞ്ചേഴ്സും വരാനുള്ള ഒരു ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി മറ്റുള്ളവർക്ക് കൊടുക്കുന്നു. അതാണ് ധനം മാഗസിൻ മറ്റേ മാഗസിനേക്കാളും വേർതിരിഞ്ഞ് നിൽക്കുന്നതിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ കാരണം.
തോന്നുന്നത് കേരളത്തിലെ ഒരു കോർപ്പറേറ്റ് മേഖലയിലും ബിസിനസ് മേഖലയിലും നിൽക്കുന്ന എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒഴിച്ചുകൂടുവാനാവാത്ത ഒരു ഇൻഗ്രീഡിയൻ്റ് ആയിട്ട് മാറിയിരിക്കുന്നു. കഴിഞ്ഞ 30 വർഷമായിട്ട് സ്റ്റഡിയായിട്ടൊരു സസ്റ്റെയിൻഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ബിസിനസ് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ എത്തിച്ചേരുന്നു. Dhanam encouraging the entrepreneurs of nowadays, especially the younger generation.
The Dhanam Business Summit is one of the most prestigious events in Kerala. One of the focus has always been encouraging businessmen, successful businessmen and young entrepreneurs.
ഞാൻ ധന ഇവന്റുകളിൽ ധാരാളം പങ്കെടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. വളരെ ഇൻഫോർമേറ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളതും എന്റർപ്രണറിയൽ കൾച്ചർ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യാൻ വളരെയധികം ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നതുമായിട്ടുള്ള ഇവന്റ്സ് ആണ് ഇവിടെ പലപ്പോഴും നടന്ന് കണ്ടിട്ടുള്ളത്.
ധനം പബ്ലിക്കേഷൻസിൻ്റെ ഈ ഡീഡ് എന്നുള്ള പ്രോഗ്രാം ആവേശകരമായ രീതിയിലാണ് കേരളത്തിലെ ബിസിനസ് സമൂഹം അതിനെ നോക്കിക്കാണുന്നത്. കാരണം കാലത്തിന്റെ മാറ്റത്തിനനുസരിച്ചുള്ള മാറ്റങ്ങൾ മുൻകൂട്ടി കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് വായനക്കാരിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കുവാനായി എക്കാലത്തും മുൻപന്തിയിൽ നിന്നിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പ്രസിദ്ധീകരണമാണ്.
കേരളത്തിലെ ലീഡിംഗ് ബിസിനസ് മാഗസിനാണ്. നമ്മുടെ ബിസിനസ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിനെ നല്ല രീതിയിൽ ഗൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. അവർക്ക് വേണ്ട ഇന്നോവേറ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ആശയങ്ങൾ പകരുന്നു. നല്ല രീതിയിൽ അവർക്ക് വേണ്ട മോഡലുകളൊക്കെ, നല്ല ബിസിനസ് മോഡൽസിനെയൊക്കെ സമൂഹത്തിൽ ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നു.
ഞങ്ങളെപ്പോലെ ചെറിയ ചെറിയ സംരംഭങ്ങൾ തുടങ്ങി വരുന്നവർക്ക് ഒരുപാട് നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാനും ഒരുപാട് ബിസിനസ് ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസും ഒരുപാട് സ്കോപ്പുള്ളൊരു ഇവൻ്റാണ് തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും.
ധനംബാസിയ വളരെ ആക്റ്റീവാണ്. ഞാൻ വർഷങ്ങളായിട്ട് ധനംബാസിയുടെ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബറാണ്. എല്ലാ നിലയ്ക്കും എനിക്ക് ബിസിനസ്സിന് വളരെയധികം ബെനിഫിറ്റ് ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുണ്ട്.
Dhanam is the total solution for the business people. ഉയർന്നു വരുന്ന യുവതലമുറയ്ക്ക് ഒരു മാർഗദർശിയായി ധനം എന്നും ഉണ്ടാവും.
My journey of insurance and investments began at the same time, when I invested in LIC SEEP. In this fast-moving world, SEEP can balance your funds with security and growth. SEEP will take care of the ups and downs of the market and will give you fruitful results so that you enjoy the ride. And when SEEP is with you, you can soar high.
LIC's unit-linked insurance plan SEEP offers savings and protection so that you can soar high in your life. LIC, हर पल आपके साथ.
പ്രിയ, നീ ചെയ്യുന്നതും ഞാൻ ചെയ്യുന്നതും ഒരേ ബിസിനസ്, രണ്ടുപേർക്കും ബുട്ടീക്ക്. പക്ഷെ നീ എപ്പോഴും ബിസിനസ് ക്ലാസ്സിൽ ഫ്ലൈ ചെയ്യുന്നു, ഞാൻ എക്കോണമി ക്ലാസ്സിലും. മോളെ ഞാൻ സ്ട്രെയിറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് ചോദിക്കോ, ഈ എക്കോണമി ക്ലാസ്സിൽ നിന്ന് ബിസിനസ് ക്ലാസ്സിലേക്ക് കയറാൻ ഞാൻ എന്നതാണ് ചെയ്യണ്ടേ?
ധനം വായിക്കുന്നത് ഒരു ശീലാക്കിയാൽ മതി, ബാക്കിയെല്ലാം ഓട്ടോമാറ്റിക്കലി ശരിയായിക്കോളും.
ധനം, ബിസിനസ് ലോകത്ത് അറിയേണ്ടതെല്ലാം.
Pooja, you left the job and still so cool?
Bro, new challenges bring new opportunities.
Oh, really?
Seriously, Rahul, my entire house, now it's an online retail store. Look.
Wow. But money?
Few years back, I'd invested my Diwali bonus.
And now you have LIC's ULIP plan Nivesh Plus. Invest once, get the benefit of both life insurance and maximized returns based on market trends.
One sec, Rahul.
Madam, you are double cool.
All right. What we first saw was some snippets from the last edition of this beautiful tradition called D-Day. That was in 2019, and I can assure you that this D-Day 2022 is going to be even more inspiring and informative. And we are also elated that this is the first time that we are live streaming this event. So delegates from across the world are joining you in watching this event live. That really calls for an applause. Yes. Thank you, everyone. And now, to formally welcome you all to this evening, I'd like to have on stage the Director and Vice President for Dhanam Publications, Mr. Vijay Kurian Abraham.
Mr. K.M. Chandrasekhar, former Cabinet Secretary, Government of India, and Chief Guest of the evening. Mr. T. Koshi, MD and CEO, Open Network for Digital Commerce, and keynote speaker. The Dhanam Business Excellence Award winners, distinguished guests, jury members, sponsors, members of the media, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to the 14th edition of Dhanam Business Summit and Award Night. We are all excited and grateful to have you all here back to this celebration of success after a gap of 2 years. I'm glad to say that we have people from Trivandrum to Kasaragod attending this event today. 34 years ago, when Dhanam was launched, the business landscape of Kerala was very, very different. And I'm proud to say that Dhanam has played a crucial role in shaping the business environment of the state, promoting business and entrepreneurship true to our motto, inspiring business success. Today, through everything we do, whether it's the magazine and the books we publish, the events we organize, or our digital initiatives, we strive to inspire business success. I'm sure we all agree that we're going through a turbulent period. The inflationary pressures, war, climate change, and other factors continue to make our lives and especially our businesses more challenging. It's in this context we have selected two outstanding sons of Kerala to enlighten us about the way forward to tackle the current and emerging challenges. We are fortunate to have with us today two brilliant minds who have made invaluable contributions to the development of the country in their own unique ways. One as a visionary administrator and the other as an accomplished technocrat. Our chief guest, Mr. K.M. Chandrasekhar, has had a distinguished career spanning over several decades. A highly respected administrator, he occupied the highest position in the Indian administration, that of a Union Cabinet Secretary. He also has been Union Revenue Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Indian Ambassador to the World Trade Organization, Geneva, the Deputy Chief of Mission in the Indian Embassy, Brussels. In Kerala, he has been Industry Secretary and Finance Secretary, among many other assignments. After retirement, he has been Vice Chairman of the Kerala State Planning Board and President or Chairman of various prestigious institutions. A prolific writer and a columnist, he has written extensively in India's major newspapers. In fact, the country is eagerly awaiting for the publication of his first book, As Good as His Word, a memoir by HarperCollins in October this year. Sir, on behalf of Dhanam and all present here, I extend to you a hearty welcome. Mr. T. Koshi, our keynote speaker, is a veteran in the technology space and has been playing key roles in the transformation projects involving digital solutions for population scale problems. Currently, Mr. Koshi is the MD and CEO of ONDC, the company established recently with an objective to strengthen and transform the e-commerce sector in India. Earlier, Koshi served as the senior partner with Ernst & Young and was involved in multiple projects in India and other developing countries. Before that, he served as Executive Director of National Securities Depository Limited, the first securities depository in India, which completely changed the face of Indian capital market. During his tenure in NSDL, he spearheaded many large digital transformation projects. Koshi holds a graduate degree in mechanical engineering and a postgraduate degree from IIM Bangalore. Sir, we are honored to have you here. We extend to you a warm welcome. The stars of the evening, to all the award winners, I extend a hearty welcome. A warm welcome to all the distinguished guests, sponsors, jury members, members of the media, my colleagues, and all who have made this unique function a reality. Thank you all for gracing us with your presence. Wish you all a great evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. One of the reasons that make this evening super special is the illustrious chief guest we have here. Vijay has already gone into great detail about what a fabulous man we have here this evening as our chief guest and our speaker. But before I invite him on stage, let me also tell you that he's a proud son of Kerala who has reached the highest position in Indian administration, and that is of the Union Cabinet Secretary of India. And he held that post for 4 years before he retired. He has been the chairman, CEO of, or director of 50 to 60 companies so far, and as we speak, he is on the director board of 10 companies. And his connection with Kerala has been, kept alive for all these years. As, Vijay mentioned here, with the rank of a state cabinet minister, he was the vice chairman of the Kerala State Planning Board, and he was the president of the SCT Institute of Medical Sciences and Technology. He has also been the chairman of Center for Development Studies, and he has an ongoing assignment as the honorary advisor of Kottakkal Arya Vaidyashala. He's also written extensively, and he's going to delight us this evening by speaking to us. Very, very proud to present to you Mr. K.M. Chandrasekhar. Welcome, sir.
Sorry, I have a little problem with my leg, so I need assistance to climb up staircases. Mr. Thambi Koshi, who's giving the keynote address, Mr. Vijay Kurian Abraham, Mr. Kurian Abraham, Mrs. Kurian Abraham, and all the distinguished people who are here. Some of you I have met before. Some of you are very young, so you wouldn't have possibly met me. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here because Dhanam has had a very major role in the economic history of Kerala. I mean, I think Dhanam itself is a symbol in the sense that it represents a risk-taking ability which made Mr. Kurian Abraham come out with a magazine in an area, in a regional language. I have not heard of many regional language publications purely on the economy and the wealth of a state. So it required a great deal of courage in 1987. And the fact that today it continues, that the circulation exceeds 100,000, that there are 14 to 15 lakh hits per month. All these on their portal, all these indicate that it has come to assume a very significant role in the economy of Kerala. So I'm proud to be here with you, and I'm very grateful to Dhanam for having invited me for this function. Now, when Mrs. Abraham and I were corresponding with each other on what I should speak about today in my address as chief guest, we finally said that it would be of use to all of you, very distinguished participants at this meeting, if I could share with you some ideas on the Kerala economy in the context of the world economy and the national economy. So when I started reading up a little bit, I found the position rather confusing, and I'm sure that all of you probably feel the same way. So far as the world is concerned, we find it's in turmoil. You have the Russia-Ukraine war, which is going on, as a result of which many essential commodities, many fuels are not reaching the markets. Sanctions have been imposed on a very powerful country. Russia is not a small country like Iraq or Iran or any such country. I mean, they're also big countries, but Russia is a major power after all, one of the two major powers in the world. Once sanctions are imposed on them and there are restrictions on movements, that affects the economy of the world in a very significant way. And it has affected the world in more ways than one. At the same time, we are just recovering from the throes of a pandemic. And this has brought in its wake its own problems. And particularly for many small countries, the first that happened, we saw, was Sri Lanka. There is a sovereign debt problem which is going to affect the financial sector globally. Once the sovereign countries which are guaranteeing or have taken loans, they default. Sri Lanka has defaulted, and it is expected that later in the year many other countries will default. There are many other candidates which have taken loans and may not be in a position to repay. Now that is going to affect the banking sector. It is going to affect the lending capacity of banks. It is going to make, once the lending capacity is affected, it could change the interest rates to some extent. Now, the increase in the interest rates will again hit the corporate sector. And once the corporate sector begins to feel the pinch, then that means the revenues of the state will come down. So we are getting into a kind of a vicious cycle, which I hope the countries of the world would have the courage and the sense to control at this point of time. The third significant factor, which is related also, is a huge increase in the price of energy. If you look at the situation, I am a member of one of the boards. I'm a member of the Tata Power, as a matter of fact, of the board. You see, in 2020, the price of coal was, when we were discussing it there, the price was something like $46, $47. And the expectation was it is going to go down still further because of various factors, sustainability, climate change, and so on. Instead, now the price is $360. That is a change that has taken place, and still there is shortage all over. So what's happened? Why this has happened? It's really something that is mysterious. Of course, there are many reasons stated, like that China has cut back on its production, that it's buying from outside. China is not buying from Australia. It is so the entire focus is on Indonesia. There are many reasons for that. But the same thing you find in crude oil, and the same thing you find in natural gas. Now, I was reading a blog on a World Bank site recently, especially on this particular aspect. And they say coal prices, natural gas prices, and crude oil prices will increase in 2022 by 81%, 74%, and 42% respectively. As a result, global output could be 0.8% lower by the end of 2023. So the global picture is not too good. And you can see what is happening on the climate change front also. Heat is going up everywhere. Even the UK has 40 degrees Celsius temperature. And they're totally not in a position to handle it. Because unlike us, they don't have fans, they don't have air conditioners in most places. They're not used to this kind of heat. Now that's going to make another change in the global scenario. So COVID has not just killed many people, affected many people. COVID continues to affect the economy of the world. So this is, and all the estimates show, the IMF, the World Bank, all of them had expected that after 2021, the scenario is going to change. But now they have all cut back on their estimation of growth. Now, the IMF says it will slow from an estimated 6.1% in 2021 to 3.6% in 22-23. And beyond 2023, it may go down still further to 3.3%. Then the World Bank also has similar estimates. The World Trade Organization, that has lowered its forecast for global growth this year to 3% from 4.7%. Basically, mainly they are talking about the Russia-Ukraine war. And the DG of WTO has warned of a potential food crisis because of disruptions to exports from Ukraine and Russia, which could hit poor countries, including some 35 African countries. And you can see the reaction in many countries, including India. We have all tried to now put barriers to protect our own economies, prevent export, so that we have more for our own consumers. This is happening on a worldwide scale. So all the concept that we were discussing in the WTO when I was the Indian ambassador there, in the early part of this millennium, all the talk about free trade being best for the world, all that is slowly disappearing. These are changes, massive changes that are taking place in the entire global scenario. Now coming to India, now here I will not refer to the IMF reports or World Bank reports or Government of India reports. I will instead talk about a report which was brought out in July 2022 by Deloitte. I'm using that because I think they have a greater sense of what goes on in the field at the level of the producers and the consumers. They say Deloitte gives a very optimistic scenario regarding India. They say that India is a domestic-driven economy, and the economic rebound witnessed in 2021 is likely to continue, and it may be 7.1% to 7.6% in financial year 2023 and 6.7% in financial year 24. Now, India's demand being domestic driven, India's economy being domestic demand driven, with consumption and investments contributing to 70% of economic activity, this growth process should continue. And they refer to an RBI analysis of 10,000 listed companies, which shows that businesses have seen steady net profit to sales growth over the past year and favorable cash coverage ratios. The Purchasing Managers Index, which is generally supposed to be indicative of the confidence of industry, that is high. It's around 56% in June 2022. So there is, the Indian scenario is different from the global scenario so far as the economy is concerned. There seems to be a lot of spending. The top 10% of our income earning people, they seem to have been very badly hit by the pandemic. They could not spend enough. So they're really going into the market in a frenzy. the chairman of Tata Sons was telling me that Kerala, he has the highest sale of Tata cars in Kerala today, which is a major, which shows the resilience of our economy. Number of the tourist industry, which was languishing, now that has come back, and even foreign tourists have doubled between January and April this year. Demand for services has gone up exponentially, touching an 11-year high in May 2022. Tax buoyancy is high, and higher capital spending on infrastructure by the government and asset building projects is likely to further boost growth. Exports have done exceptionally well, and there is potential for further increase in service exports. Foreign investment prospects have also increased in the manufacturing sector because there is a little hesitation about China at present, and India looks like a good alternative. This is where I think Indian industry could really grow. So overall, I feel that the situation is good, but even though it looks all rosy according to Deloitte, let us not forget that the global headwinds may affect us at some stage or the other. This is where very sensible policy making is required, both from the Government of India and from the Reserve Bank of India. During the pandemic period, liquidity was increased. Liquidity in the market increased considerably. More money was available, more loans were available. Now, if you suddenly fear inflation is high today. Inflation, I think it is more supply-induced than demand-induced. There is, of course, food inflation. Again, there is a strong speculative element there, because if you look at the figures, you will find that the wholesale price index, wholesale food price index, has been higher than the consumer price index, which shows that there is some kind of speculative activity taking place. There is an expectation that prices could go up. But on the other hand, we know that we have got reasonably good rains and food prices. And we have also put some restriction on exports. So I don't see any real reason why food prices should remain high. But the headwinds caused by the fuel prices, that is going to continue to hit us for quite some time. So at this stage, the corporate sector is likely to be in a difficult position if too many governmental restrictions come. That is, if suddenly there is a reversal of policy, and already RBI has raised the bank rates by about 90 basis points, but if more restrictions are placed and the banks are not able to handle the situation in a very considerate way, this is going to affect the corporate sector. Now, that is something which I hope the policymakers will keep in mind in the years to come, and in the months to come, actually. Now I come to the Kerala story, and here I will just tell you some stories. One story is that of Technopark. Now, when I was industry secretary, we were setting it up. Plain land, empty land. Vijay Raghavan was the chief executive at that time. He was running around. I was the head of the whole organization, trying to provide money as much as possible to set it up. And people, my own colleagues were telling me this is very stupid, because Trivandrum is a bureaucratic city, it is not going to develop. So you're wasting money. But we wasted that money. I didn't see Technopark after I left. I left in 95, 96. I then came back then I went abroad, then I came back to India in 2004. even then I didn't come to Kerala. I came to Kerala only after around 2008. Then I happened to see Technopark, and I just couldn't believe. I mean, the amount of change that had taken place, the number of people that were being employed, the services that had grown around Technopark, that was unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't believe that in Kerala such development could take place, and it is continuing to take place. It's continuing to take place there. It's continuing to take place in Cyber Park. Here again, it is an indication of a policy direction. That is, if you provide space, infrastructure for the growth of industry, and leave it to the private sector to grow, it will grow. Don't try to interfere too much. Don't try to do very dramatic things all of a sudden. Like removing 86% of the currency in circulation one evening. I mean, that kind of thing can affect the economy very badly. That kind of thing, if we can avoid, and allow and just follow a very sensible policy of providing infrastructure, providing support. Kerala has done a great job that way. I'm sure Mr. Muralidharan, who's sitting here, will be able to, probably support me, that one of the reasons why we were able to take advantage of the Gulf boom was that successive governments from the 50s onwards, from Joseph Mundasheri downwards, and even before, during the Maharaja's times, they had focused so much on health and on education. So when the Gulf boom came, the people who could take advantage of that went from Kerala, because we were best equipped at that time. So that is again a supportive government policy. And when we talk about that, education, here again, I must say that the education policy of the 50s was the first exercise in public-private partnership, in the sense that there were managers who set up the infrastructure and governments which provided the software. Now, that is public-private, it is supportive of the development process. It's been, I think that has been one of the critical factors leading to the growth of the state and the money that is coming in from outside, which is substantial. 1 lakh crore was the estimate which I saw in 2020. 1 lakh crore was coming inside. But of course, again, there are headwinds which we will talk about. Again, I've seen a change in the attitude of people. When I was a collector and I went to any college for any function, there would be immediately hooting and shouting and every possible thing. But when I came back as vice chairman of the planning board, I found that the students were very serious. Whenever I went to an institution, they were listening with great care. And they would come, they would ask questions. They would ask very sensible questions. It's good to see that University College is now again come to the top. University College was supposed to be a den of trouble. But that has again come to the top now. Now that attitude is changing Kerala slowly. I mean, you may not see it immediately, but it is changing. The seriousness is coming into the students, into the labor sector, into everybody. And again, look at the number of startups. All of you, many of you are startups. All of you display enormous risk-taking ability, which I never saw when I was working here in Kerala as finance secretary, as industry secretary, and so on. I mean, any number of risks you are willing to take away. Even Dhanam is a startup that way. Just an idea, and you go ahead and do it. And it works. In many cases, it has worked. And today we are giving awards to a startup for its success. And there are many such cases. If you look at the medium and small industry scenario in Kerala, they're sprouting up. We are not going to have large-scale manufacturing, let there be no doubt about it. We had large-scale manufacturing early in the 50s and 60s. That is primarily because there used to be an organization called the Directorate General of Technical Development. Now, one of its objectives was to ensure regional dispersal of industry. So they would, if somebody wants to set up an industry, they will say, you go and set it up in Kerala. So there, a lot of influencing, etc., could be done. Today, that is not there. You can set up, the industry can be set up anywhere, whoever wants to do it. So in that scenario, I think Kerala has grown. And Kerala has shown this resilience repeatedly. It is not just now, earlier when we went out of spice trade into plantation business, from plantation business to industry, and from industry to the service industry, and to medium and small industries. I think the story is one of the Kerala entrepreneur showing a great deal of ability to take risks and move forward. So of course, Kerala will have its problems, because when the rupee is falling, I don't know how our NRI friends will react. Will you send in more money here, or will you wait and see how far it falls? That will be probably what they will be thinking of. Likewise, how our banks will behave, how the Reserve Bank of India will put pressure on these banks. In case somebody is in difficulty because the economy is not in good shape, now will you say non-performing assets, willful defaulter, etc., and stop him? Or will you give him more room? Generally, the banks used to be accommodative. Some banks, of course, went wild. That's a different story. That's a story of corruption and so on. That's not the story of most banks. And those banks need support at this point of time. The economy needs support. We should not have, there should be no knee-jerk reactions in the formulation of policy. If that happens, if that kind of a situation is there, I feel very optimistic both about Kerala and about the country and its ability to weather the storm. So thank you very much, Dhanam, once again for having given me this opportunity. Sure. Sure.
If you have any questions for Sir, we'd definitely like to have some of them. We can have a microphone come to you. We have a cordless mic here, so if there's anybody who wants to ask a quick question, no pressure, because he's going to be here all evening, so if you want to take it off stage, that's fine too. Is there anybody who, did I see? Okay.
Sir, you were with the WTO earlier. Are developing countries getting a fair deal in WTO? In fact, during the last meeting, the Commerce Minister said we got a very good deal after the meeting, but many critics said it was not that good. What is your feeling about that?
No, I think the WTO has lost its teeth. You see, the strength of the WTO depended on the dispute settlement mechanism, which was in existence. Now, the dispute settlement mechanism is at two stages. First, there is a panel, then there is an appellate body. That is how it is structured. And once a decision is taken in favor of any country and against any country, that country can then impose retaliatory tariffs on the one which is found at fault. Now, unfortunately, what has happened is, President Donald Trump didn't like it very much, the WTO. So he just did not allow the reconstitution of the appellate tribunal, with the result that the the dispute settlement mechanism is not working. So it's an ineffective body at present. And a large number of bilateral agreements have taken place, which are not within the multilateral framework. So WTO in my time and WTO now, they are two different organizations. So it doesn't really, I think the Commerce Minister was speaking about the vaccinations and intellectual property right scheme. I don't think there has been any material change in the situation till now, because there was an agreement already which we had negotiated in 2003, the TRIPS and Public Health Agreement. Now the present agreement is that there should be no patents for some of the vaccines, etc. I don't know whether any significant progress has been made in that.
We have another question.
Yes, please, sure.
Good evening, sir. Sorry. I'm Major Ravi. You had been on delegation, in the sense ambassador to so many countries, representing this great country, sir.
No, only to the World Trade Organization.
Okay.
Then I have been to the, I have been Deputy Chief of Mission representing India for Belgium, Luxembourg, and the European Commission.
Still, you will be able to give me a diplomatic answer to my question.
Sure.
Because since the Sri Lankan problem which is happening now, since you talked about the economy,
yeah,
don't you think that we also failed somewhere? Why? Because I'm putting this question with my... Since China is a country which was trying to lure these countries into their clutches by giving a lot of loans and, making them into the debt and falling into this ditch.
Yeah.
Don't you think that it was even our responsibility? Why? Because if China like a country comes about 24 kilometers away from our southern end, and which will become an economical and defense security also will be at stake.
Yeah.
So don't you think that our government should have taken a keen eye on this developments, what was happening in Sri Lanka?
Yeah.
Because we already got a bad experience with the Coco Islands. Above this Andaman Nicobars, on top they have occupied and we didn't even know it. But then later on they built a airstrip also for their defense purposes. So that side, now we are suffering because of that thing. So don't you think that this was somewhere, I'm not blaming our country, but don't you think that we should have been more careful about these kind of situation which is Sri Lanka is facing now?
Yeah. No, I think there is a lot of sense in what you say, because this has been a kind of situation which we have been looking at for a very long time. We have been seeing China operating in different countries. Now their Belt and Road Initiative. Huh?
Correct, sir.
Where they give a lot of loans and they try to bring more developing countries under their
clutches. Sir.
Under their clutches.
Sir.
Now, but the Sri Lanka experience is very clearly showing that unmitigated borrowing of this kind is going to lead the country into trouble. So this is an opportunity for us. We have, of course, to take care of ourselves. And I think we are doing a few things. As you know, we have got the Indo-Pacific Agreement, where we are trying to build our defenses jointly with Australia, US, Japan, in the Indo-Pacific area. We are trying, now that Sri Lanka is in trouble, we are trying to help Sri Lanka also. And Sri Lanka is now talking only about India.
Correct.
So at that stage, you know, I don't think it would have been a correct thing for us to go and give a lot of loans to Sri Lanka or to any other country which they cannot repay.
Exactly,
now,
sir.
Putting a port in Hambantota and building an airport there, we know that it's not going to be economically viable. So they've got into trouble.
Definitely, sir. I, as a citizen, I won't like my country to give loans to any country and, you know, making them as slaves to our country.
Correct.
Because this is what is, we are seeing it with the American policy also. Even if it is, whether it is in Falkland or wherever, they will put their nose into that country and they will put their command over there. Here, now since you said about the loan, we are not supposed to give too much of loan to any country.
Yeah.
Simple question and I'll sit, sir. Now, my Kerala is in debt of 3.75 crores, lakhs crores. Now when we discuss among our people, the party people and others, they say we are a part of, a small part of our country. So it won't affect us like the way it affected Sri Lanka. But don't you think that this will affect us also?
It will, because if we take too much loan, I mean, I'm myself in favor of, not in favor of heavy borrowing, because what you're doing is you're putting a penalty on the future generations.
Exactly, sir.
You take more and more, somebody has to repay. Now you take loans from abroad. Now your rupee is falling, you'll have to pay much more. The interest may have been only X%. But when the rupee falls, the amount you will have to pay back will be much more.
My worry has been answered.
So all these problems will be there, so we have to be careful.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Any more?
Hello. Excuse me.
The what? Center stage.
We will have to wrap it up right
Yeah,
now.
1 minute. Good evening, sir. Hello, just one question, sir.
Yes.
With the, when your presentation, you said two things. One is the infrastructure.
Yeah.
That you don't want to give answer because we see the all Kerala roads there, then it's finished. The second thing, very important. I am a businessman. I was an ex-Gulf, 28 years in Dubai from 79 onwards. From Dhanam, Kurian is my best friend and I'm almost attending this type of meeting. You said a very clean thing. Most of them are affected. Non-performant asset. Even today, I don't want to disclose a family who is going to suicide very soon. 40 crore rupees property in bank. I know that everyone knows that we take loan, we should repay. But the banks have a excusing system called NPA, non-performant asset. Maybe this 40 crore rupees property, land, building, everything is there. For 3 crores, they are not giving breathing time. And they are taking this land. So all banks are running very profit. But the customers are suiciding. I filed already a case in the High Court, Justice Nagarish bench. The party is Reserve Bank, South Indian Bank and other banks. The saying is that a customer and a bank is a bridge system.
Yes.
They always gave the statement LW 500, PEZ 300. Their statement, even the chartered accounts doesn't know what is these charges. And they're hiding so many things and finally the borrower is going to suicide. So non-performant asset, at least they should give 50%. At least 25%, they should give a breathing time before ceasing or japt.
No, you see, when this pressure was maximum, that was during Raghuram Rajan's time when he was governor of the Reserve Bank, when they were really going after non-performing assets. At that time, I had written an article in the Indian Express where I said that, you know, banks, I mean, if somebody has done a crime, that's a different thing. But banks must have the discretion to decide if a particular borrower is having a difficult time because of a bad economy, a bad business at that point of time. Should he be given more room at that time of time, at that period of time? Or should you throw the book at him? Now,
that is called SARFACE Act.
Yeah.
Just cut.
Yes, so that is, in my view, banks must have the discretion to take that decision.
And another stupid is CIBIL. After paying everything, I am a 63-year-old man. I have perfect banking, but a small thing, I become down in the CIBIL, then I pay everything, then I am running behind the CIBIL. That our elected, I don't want to say that, our elected dash are making this nonsense because they are benefited. They don't want to repay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So, I request you to take the center stage to receive a memento from us.
Center stage?
Yes, sir. I request Managing Director and Chief Editor, Mr. Kurian Abraham, to come on stage to present a token of our appreciation to this illustrious man who just spoke to us in great detail about the global economic scenario and the specific situation of Kerala as well. And don't be fooled by his calm demeanor. He's a man who's done some powerful stuff as, yes, come on stage, please. As the Cabinet Secretary of India, he has dealt with everything from militancy to terrorism to Commonwealth Games to economic crisis. He has seen it all, he has done it all. A very powerful man, a very proud son of Kerala indeed. Thank you, sir. It was a delight hosting you today. Yes, sir. വളരെ ക്ഷമയോടെ അദ്ദേഹം ചോദിക്കുന്നത് കഴിഞ്ഞോ? Indeed, sir. Thank you once again. Yes. We really apologize for having to cut short the Q&A session. Like I mentioned, he'll be available for you all evening. He also has some difficulty in continuously standing on stage, which is why I had to take the lead in doing that. And without any further ado, I bring on stage our keynote speaker, who is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of a company established recently with an objective to strengthen and transform the e-commerce sector in India, the biggest boom of our recent times, and that's Open Network for Digital Commerce. Before this role, before assuming his role, he also served as the senior partner at Ernst & Young, like Vijay mentioned earlier, where he was leading consulting practice in identity and social protection primarily. That was one of his key assignments. And he also supports many global projects funded by developmental agencies like World Bank and ADB, particularly in this area of identity and social protection. He has also acted as a resource person for a number of initiatives like, Tax Administrative Reform Commission, etc., and unique ID project as well. Very proud to present to you Mr. T. Koshi. Welcome, sir.
Dignitaries on and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be here in my own state and to make a speech after the speech given by the former Cabinet Secretary, and it's a matter of pride. And I'm sure some of you have read some stories in Ramayana. Annara Kundanam Tannalayadu. So when the Hanuman and the Sri Rams had been on the dais, and it's a humbling experience to come after that and do that part of shaking a few pieces of sands in this building. And I'm extremely thankful to Dhanam Group for having given this opportunity. I remember writing, I used to write once in a while some blog articles, I remember it was about 10 years ago. I just remember writing, recently I just looked at it last week again. Said that in the first millennia, India was a very evolved society. We had one of the fantastic educational institutions which had a global standing. We were sort of intellectual powerhouse, we can say. Big picture view. And in the second millennium was the millennium of engineering and industry. It sort of passed us away. We were not, there are so many reasons, but that happened, it so happened. From colonial subjugation to many other reasons. The current millennium is the millennium of, again, of knowledge and learning. And I felt that, this when I was remembering writing about 10 years ago, that way, this is a millennium for India. Because a millennium of knowledge and learning is something that is very suitable for us, especially sitting around, especially for a Malayali sitting after a coffee, sipping a coffee, giving gyan is very, very good. And sometimes that intellectual mind cell can really be productive if it is channelized in the right fashion. Today the way things are moving, I feel that my expectation 10 years ago was sort of correct. We have found some fabulous progress, and I'm going to talk in a very limited area, which is an area where I am familiar with. We had the privilege of our former cabinet secretary explaining the big picture, so let me just come to microsystem. The last couple of decades, we saw some humongously leading transformation using digital technology. The transformation of capital market, the implementation of unique identity. It was not the first time in the world, but a biometric ID project of this scale was not even attempted or imagined that possible at that point of time, which we done using open source technologies, which has resulted in being one of the most economical implementation. And building on that, we have gone further. Then we cracked the problem of financial inclusion and extent of participation in the banking sector. And the complement in things like ID, etc., contributed a lot to making that possible. And I again read somewhere that the original projection of the banking penetration from the then level of 18 or 20% a few years ago to the current level was, if we had seen the normal way of growth, apparently it would have taken something like 42 years. But we were able to do that in a matter of 4 to 6 years. Because of the significant contribution of digital transformation that we have managed in many ways. Now I have got an opportunity to participate in, again, a very, very transformative project, first time in the world that is ever being attempted. When we had many discussions like this, some people said, has it been done anywhere? Because we are so used to copying and pasting from somewhere else. If it is not copy-paste from somewhere, it's not good enough is the thought. But in the last few years, we have managed to do a few experiments in the right fashion. For example, I remember having a lot of discussions about the digital transaction in the banking sector, and when we introduced something, an idea called UPI, which was being planned for some time and finally got implemented. And I remember that very many critics saying that it is never relevant, it is not needed. We already have something 250 million transactions happening digitally every month across the financial sector. It is growing pretty well, you don't need anything further. But when we introduce a really world-class, unique solution, from 250 million transactions a month, it has now become 6.5 to 7 billion transactions a month, out of which 90% is, or more than 90% is contributed by the UPI. So we were quite backward in the technological usage of in the banking system. Today we are one of the most modern. In fact, we can be proud of the fact that the banking transaction system in US would be at least 1 or 2 generations behind. And in fact, I was last year talking to one of my good friends who had come from US, and he said, the best critique I heard was that he said he was walking along the street in Bangalore, and his son wanted some, corn to be, so he asked the guy who was selling corn, can I have some corn? And he said, yes, 50 rupees. So he took a 500 rupee note and gave it to him. And so that time, he said, no change, sir, why don't you use UPI, Phone Pay or Google Pay or something. So he was taken aback for a second. He said, what? So apparently that person who was selling told him, sir, probably he realized his accent. Sir, are you from America? Maybe you don't have such things there. He said, that was the best criticism I've heard. But it is truly correct, because I'm sure some of you might be aware, Google, the private sector giant, wrote a report recommending open recommendation to the government that they should seriously look at that. And Bank of International Settlement also has endorsed that. And today many countries are in the process of looking at and seriously and adopting that. But there again, in all this case, that was a unique first time. But again, we were solving a problem of a developing country. The problem of limited digital participation. They all had 90%, 95% digital participation anyway. And then we seriously started thinking about transforming digital commerce, which was triggered by the compulsions of pandemic. That actually acted as a trigger. But since there was a lot of thinking happening among people who are looking at such a solution, that acted as a trigger. I'm not going into the details. And what it is trying to solve is a problem that is not just a developing country problem. So let me just briefly tell the problem and what is the global situation of that, and then I'll tell you what we are trying to do it here. I'll do that in the next 15 to 20 minutes. The problem is, today in the digital commerce, there is very heavy extent of concentration. If you look at the global digital commerce, 4 Chinese companies hold something like 43% of the e-commerce. Even if you remove that from Chinese company because it's a big country and they're a different sect, even then, anywhere in the world, the concentration of few industries, the big tech industries, is exceedingly high. And with that high concentration, their extent of their possibility for practices that are not so fair to a broader industry is becoming a challenge. On one side, when they say that I am doing that all on behalf of the consumer, they are becoming like a single or dual buyer, and not monopoly, but the monopsony is becoming a big challenge to the industrial sector. And eventually it is leading to many small and micro enterprises dying, and their ability to extract larger commissions get higher. So that's why I'm sure that you would have many of you would have read that, let's take US government. Biden has brought in this lady called Lina Khan as the chairperson of FTC with a clear mandate to say that how do we bring some discipline. And I don't know whether they have brought this act or not. There is something called America Innovation and Online Choice Act. Just read the problem statement is the same: concentration and potential unfair trade practice in US. Go to European Union, they have announced what you call Digital Market Access Act. Issue, same. They call it contestability and possible unfair practices. The problem is the same. They are trying to address that by regulation. The Chinese said, forget all this regulation, I'll just take control. Because they have a different way of solving a problem. In India, we said we will use technology and markets with enabling policy to try to find a solution to the problem that is being faced by everybody. And that is this attempt of open network for digital commerce. In a limited fashion, we did that in UPI. And now we are attempting that in a much larger So again, putting the context, I'm sure that few people like me and Dr. Chandrasekhar, etc., are old enough to remember the early days of internet. Most of your kids who have started using apps and etc., which is much developed situation. Internet started as a very democratic place. Soon after TCP/IP was enabled wide area network, the computer to computer communication across large distances became possible. But it was being used by a few geeks because nobody else could manage. Then came this gentleman called Tim Berners-Lee, I think, Tim Lee, with an idea of HTTP, which we all know. And he said, this is going to be a foundation on which a new world can be built. I should not try to make money out of it. I will make it a public good. And the internet is today what it is only because of that. He made it a public good. He could have created a platform. And probably somebody else would have created another platform called HTTP. I'm just speculating. Only 2 or 3 of them, because of the proprietary nature of the technology which would have become the dominant players, and maybe all of us would have paid something like $1 each a month or a quarter to access, which we are today accessing free. Similarly, even when the the email started, it had a similar kind of potential concentration problem. I remember I was one of the early adopters of email. I managed to get through my professor a Jugaad account in ERNet. That was the only way I could get an email address. Then it became commercially available. I went and got one of the earliest probably would have got this commercial email account. And I was very excited. They used to charge something a few rupees to download a message and few rupees to upload a message. And during the time, me and my favorite professor, Dr. Indra Rajaraman, we published a paper together, which got published in EPW, and it went into some policy making and so on and so forth. We were very excited. I was very excited, especially because while she did all the work, I also got a name. And since my name started with K and she started with R, it was the article referred as Koshi and Rajaraman, whereas all the work was done by Rajaram. So anyway, she said she was a PhD from Cornell. She said, let me share that with my colleagues and get some opinion. I said, fantastic, ma'am. I will send it by email. I was very proud. Like an eager people. I said, ma'am, email. She said, okay, Koshi, can you do it? She said, yes. So it was a file, some 2 MB Word file. I attempted to send it. How much do you think I paid? I'm talking about 1993 or something. 2 MB, which I said attempted because it never reached the other side. I paid 20,000 rupees. It is not somebody else's story, it's my own story. Because that was a pricing of that much attempts. Not that I attempted from morning to evening, I tried a few times. It was 2 MB file, that was a file. Because of the possibility of concentration. But SMTP happened as a public good. Today, each entity, like Google will have their own front end, their own technology, their own way of interacting. It's all fine, it's proprietary, it's fine. But they all use SMTP to exchange messages across the other platforms. So I may use Yahoo, I may use ONGC.org, sir may use NIC.in, which are all different email platform, but they all talk in one common language. So that makes it possible for individuals to innovate and collective cooperate. Individual innovation and collective cooperation became possible. But as we proceeded further to digital commerce, life changed a bit. The strategy is what is shown on the left side. We have started having platforms. What does a platform manage? 2 sides. One side is people who have something to offer. I have. On the other side, people who want something. I want. They want to come together in a marketplace. So the solution was to create a digital platform. But fantastic idea. It enabled digital commerce to grow like mad all across the world. 5-star service, I'm sure that all of us sitting here are users of that. No doubt about it. But there is one challenge to this model. It comes out of the fact these platforms are based on proprietary technology. So it becomes walled gardens. It means that you are a seller in platform 1, you can only deal with the buyers in that platform. If you want to meet with the buyers in platform 2, you have to have the technology and process to meet with the platform 2. Which is also possible. We could have many platforms. But unfortunately, when these kind of things happen, the network effect, which many of you people with economic background understand, will drive towards concentration irrespective of the policies used by any of them. But the policies they will use, that's a separate part, it will lead to concentration. That's why it's happening, Big Tech Challenge. That's why America is trying America Innovation and Online Choice Act. That's why the European Union is trying Digital Market Access Act, because by nature, it will lead to concentration. It will kill competition and lead to concentration. And that's seen all around the world. So what was we said as a solution? Any of this complex problem very often have a simple solution. Can we unbundle and make it interoperable? Let's look at unbundling in limited fashion. If you look at the left side, you would see the platform has two colors. One side is if I call the seller interface, which is to help the sellers to bring their stuff. The other side is to bring the buyer interface, which is to bring the buyer. All of us might be using buyer. Some of you, I'm sure, are using seller. But they are actually two different systems talking to each other. They are conjoined twins, giving humongous control. So if you unbundle that into two, that is unbundling, and make it interoperable, the life could change. Like the Lego block. What does the Lego block does? It has very specific specification of how two blocks should talk to each other. Correct? That's all. It is left to the imagination of the designer to make different kind of blocks so long as they make this interlinkages standard. So they can all come together, and based on the imagination of the persons who putting together can make a spacecraft or a bullock cart. And it can be made, half the spacecraft can be made by one person, half can be made by other person. They can seamlessly talk. So unbundling can lead to fragmentation, but interoperability leads to seamless integration, leading to seamless commerce for the buyer and the seller. So that is the idea of open network for digital commerce. So if you look at the right side in that block diagram, there are still platforms. But if I am a seller in platform 1, I am visible to the buyers in all the other platforms on the right side, buyer platforms. If I am a buyer on one side, I can see all the sellers on the left side. The whole mental model needs to change. We are all so being tuned to and brainwashed to thinking the first way that we will only see problems. But if you sit down and see the way it is solving humongous amount of problems and throwing up humongous opportunities. So going a little deeper, I'm just thinking about unbundling of buying and selling. I'll come to things later. So what is the idea? Democratization. What does it mean? Every buyer should be able to see every seller, and every seller should be able to see every buyer. Simple. That's what happens in the physical world, correct? I can go to a 5-star hotel and I can go to a Tattagada. There's nothing binding me into one, limiting me to one, except probably my size of my purse. But that's not the case today. So when you unbundle, imagine today, let's say Kudumbashri, or let's say a smart young startup developing an application to help the artisans of Kerala to make their products attractive to a larger market using digital technology. It is very much possible. Our guys can do it like back of hand. But they have one problem. If they make something like that, who will buy from them? They have no buyer. They have no access to buyer. And buyer acquisition is a humongously costly expense. Because it's all your own, nobody else will come. Because we had been used by, tuned to somebody acquiring and holding them as their father's property. So now imagine, now that is not a challenge. So I'll come to that later, why it will cease to be a challenge. He said, now imagine the smart young fellow who has got an application to help or the artisans using Malayalam language, text and Malayalam language voice, because he's very smart fellow, very, very geeky. He can make it. He doesn't need he doesn't want to make every artisans of the country. He has no such global ambition. He says, I will do for the Kerala. That's good enough. Now when he is making it digitally visible through one platform, he doesn't have to worry about where the buyers come. Buyers are all there. So he needs to only focus on how to support his sellers. That is not a very costly compared to the other. And that is something that he can very much manage. He understands Kerala, he understands the culture, he understands the product, he understands the government. He has all these possibilities. So suddenly the opportunity comes for him to have an equal possibility of making this artisans of Kerala visible, as much as if he was a part of, let's say, a big platform, a global platform. So that is going to throw up humongous opportunities to innovators and small and medium and large enterprises. Because what is going to drive is not the scale, which is in the other case. Scale can be taken for granted. It is your innovation and what you have to offer. Again, like you said, the old internet, we are all used to. Like this is the example I was telling to somebody from Dhanam I was talking. I said, we can have a Dhanam.com and Koshi.com. Both of us are equally visible in the net. But what will drive people to Dhanam versus Koshi is they have something better to offer. If I am smart enough to offer more readable material, people will come to my site. So opportunity is equal. So what is going to drive is what are you offering? Okay, so from the seller side, possibilities. Now how will all the buyers come? Today there are many enterprises. I am taking two extreme. Let's take a large telco or a bank. Let's say Airtel on one side, on HDFC Bank on the other side. I'm just making. They are big enterprises with large number of digital consumers. Not for e-commerce, but for the financial services. They have their own consumers. Now imagine if they want to give digital commerce and have an access to sellers, either they have to go and tie up with all the sellers in the country or tie up with some platform. Otherwise they have no option. So they say, this is not, now, he says, I only need to give a front end. And if I give the front end, which is ONDC protocol compliant, which is a standard open protocol, all my buyers can look at all the products in the country as much as whether you do it in Amazon or Flipkart or Nike or Tata New, it doesn't make a difference. Everybody see the same set of people. So that is giving them a lot of confidence. I'm going to bring a buying side platform. I will leave it to them. So as of today, as I'm talking, I've talked to at least 10, 12 banks. They've all said yes. And one of the first bank is going to go live in the next month. And Paytm has already gone live on the other side. And many others are getting, in fact, you might have seen the announcement yesterday. One of the large one, Snapdeal has already announced publicly that they'll be integrated with ONDC maybe in a month's time. That is on, like I said, to all. Imagine see today, let's say the largest base may have, 2 or 3 of them together may have a couple of 100 million as the buyer base. But if, let's say, if Airtel and Vodafone and HDFC and SBI come together and throw their digital consumers onto an open platform, 1 billion people straight away come. They're open to everybody. So then you have a seller, you as a seller need to worry only about, Brahmin Group need to only worry about, can I have my digital catalog on the online network? Then this 1 billion people can see. That is opening up humongous possibilities. So it's not just so the biggies can do. Like I said earlier, let's say even a buyer side, if I decide that, I'll develop a small platform because I understand Malayalam, I understand Malayalam culture, I know Onam, what Malayalis need in Onam, I will create a buying platform with Malayalam script and voice. It is only for Malayalis. Maybe it will have a couple of million users who can only speak Malayalam. It's okay. But they will still be exposing those 1 or 2 million hardcore Malayalis who do not want to use anything else to make their special Onam purchase from options available nationally, from any product, from any seller. Or a smart seller who is creating special Onam product seller side, say that normally, Onam time there's a lot of demand that is coming from Delhi, Ahmedabad, Bombay. Otherwise, I don't have a network there. I don't have logistics there. I don't have warehouse there. So long as now, unbundling. Unbundling is not just buyer and seller. Warehouse as a service, logistics as a service, packaging as a service. Everything is coming as unbundled ones. That's why you're seeing in this picture. Earlier, the rectangle would have been everything a black box. The buyer platform, the seller platform, everything is logistics. All is in a one box. Nobody, you can only interact with it. Today, ONDC, what they say is remove the blocks and said, I created a language for all of you to develop your own farm, building blocks. They will all talk to each other as a service. And it's not just a theory, it's not a PowerPoint presentation. We demonstrated that we can be as agile in our country as doing something like this. When the last year government decided that an idea like should be supported, they also knew that it can only be successful only if it has the flexibility and agility of a private sector with a very, very professional team who has gone the freedom and the agility to do what is needed. And they suggested to large financial institutions as a starting point and see, and to make sure that this entity does not have any, entities do not have any profit maximization initiative, let us make it a Section 8 company, a non-profit company. And even that means any investors will get no return, no paisa, no dividend, nothing, no listing, nothing. Even then, today I will say another luckiest startups where people are falling all over me to say, I'll dump some money, you take it and use it. I said, I don't want, I want so much. 20 institutions have agreed. I said, yes to them, that's good enough. When I need more, I'll come. Not because they were trying to do, of course they had want to be participating in a large national transformation project. That is not just the case. They believe that as a collective, if you build this digital rail, on the top of it, there is humongous possibilities. That is why all these institutions have now become shareholders of the Section 8 company. So, like I was coming the block, each of this block will become entrepreneurial opportunities. On the right side, what you're seeing is a set of common facilities that ONDC will offer. Like a common registry, like in the internet you have no DNS. A reputation ledger, very important thing. Which is across the network. Today what happens is, let's say I work with platform A. I created a positive network. A positive rating. 5 years. Now I feel that I should try to do somewhere else. If I go, I am lost everything. All my history, my data, everything is not with me. It's all with the intermediary. Rating is also gone. My history is wiped clean. But now we have a network-wide reputation rating which can be shared. A network-wide online dispute resolution framework and a platform. These kind of common things will be made available. And the beauty is, now that there's a lot of digital transaction, an easy integration to the credit markets. Today, one of the challenges for the banks to offer credit and the people to take credit is, most of the credit is asset-based. That's the only thing they can prove. But if there is a very seamless way of tracking and monitoring and having the kind of the appropriate kind of access to regular financial transaction flow, flow-based lending become a reality. And even today it's a reality. It will become easy and prevalent. And that is also going to really strengthen the small and medium enterprises. So I'm just throwing up some ideas because otherwise if I keep talking, I will not end. Because it's something new and it's really an exciting idea. Even today evening when Dhanam reporter was, wanted to have a 15 minutes interview. Finally, she was also listening to the story and it went on and finally said, "Both ho gaya. Let's stop it." Because it's really transformational. You have to really shake your mental models. So like I said, we finally set up this company, registered the company on December 31st. We got 70-80% of the money what we wanted by March. But we already have a pilot up and running. We started in a limited fashion to see how it works. Because network, it's not like a abracadabra. I create a huge central system and launch it. Like what you call a core banking system or a stock exchange platform. Nothing. There is centrally you would have seen nothing. It's all to be done by the network participants. So we but wanted to see that it works smoothly. We set up small 5 seller platform, 1 buyer platform, and 1 logistics player together. We started on 29th April in 5 cities, and as of today we are in 21 cities. And I'm hoping, and I was convincing that I will try to be present in 100 cities by August. But if what Snapdeal announced yesterday, and they live up to the word, and I think they will because they are already in pre-prod, that they said they will be there in 2,500 cities. Forget 2,500. 200 cities itself is a good start for a 6-month-old attempt in something that was never attempted before in this country. And that is the way that we're proceeding. And I'd like to tell you one happy thing, when you're trying to, and the original people who are trying to develop the protocol, there's no company, it was just an idea. We want to check it out somewhere. And those team who was working on it came and happened to have talked to Kerala government. And Kerala government supported to do a similar idea in the mobility area in Cochin as a pure pilot. And as of in the few months they have been operational, they have some 1,500 taxi drivers registered, And from all the parties working together for a common cause, they said that common cause is to be relevant. Political difference can be for something else. And it's a matter of pride that formed a basis and confidence for the larger team to set up what we call the Open Network for Digital Commerce. And today I had met them in the morning and we agreed that we can integrate all of them and benefit for all these things, join this effort together and what we call the mobility, the first mobility. Anyway, it was our plan in ONDC, but we already had somebody who had started in small fashion using the same protocol. So when we started our pilot with grocery and food and started with home furnishing and going on to electronics, now we will be able to probably in a month's time launch mobility, take it further in Cochin, do it across the state and then use that model for other states. It's a matter of pride for me that it is happening from here. So these are the kind of possibilities. So left for you, you can go to ondc.org where there's a strategy paper lying and all kinds of questions and answers are there. And if you put in Google ONDC study material, you'll get piles and piles of it because that's become the fashion of the day. Everybody is making a study material, but you can go to our site. So as of today, I said now that we are there in 25 cities, even in Kerala, and just limited chat, just as a catalyst and no action. Probably 5-6 trades in a day, which is fine. That's how it starts. Kannur, Trichur, and I think, 2 of them. That's how I believe. You will start this, when you try to do a nationwide such project, it will take maybe an year and a half to build creditable volumes. As of today, while we are only 750 organizations, these are all in the different stages of integration. And on an average, about 15 to 20 of them are talking to us every week. And what is so exciting, I'll wind with what is so exciting and what gives me a lot of confidence that it will succeed. One, when I talk to all this large institutional board about making an investment in the Section 8 company, I was there in their debate and presenting, making my pitch. And they said, "Boss, I think it works, we are ready." So all those smart people said they're ready. So it's not just me thinking. Second is that when there was a lot of questions from the venture capitalists. They said, "Boss, this will mess up all our investment." But then they sat together and discussed, they said, "Oh my God, this is throwing opportunities at us. Instead of 1 or 2 winner takes it all, we have many who will make big buck return." In the last 3 months, I might have addressed 3 conferences of the Venture Capital Association and umpteen discussion with many of the venture capitalists and fund managers and so on and so forth. And they're all saying that, it works. Even Goldman Sachs made a private study report and published to their investors, keep look at it. Credit Line has did a report, Jeffries, everybody is written. If all those smart people are saying, maybe we are not wrong. So, and the media is also giving enough attention. It's a matter of pride that even a magazine like Times covered it within 3 months of it going live, saying that it's something that's worth looking at. Reuters, Times, the Reuters equivalent of the European Union and so on and so forth. So all this, taking the message from Mr. Chandrasekhar's speech is giving me a lot of hope and faith and optimism about what is possible, in spite of everything that is around, that this can help in empowering India to lead the way in shaping the future of global commerce. Thank you.
So I request you to stay for a moment. In case any of you have a question, we just have time for one question, so one quick question. And I also request you to please keep it brief. Can we have a microphone handed over to that gentleman? Yes.
Thank you, sir, for this sharing more about this transformatory project. So my question is this, in an open platform like yours, who enforces quality? So I'll give an example, right? If you go to an Amazon.com and buy a phone.
I know the question, and I know I've been answering this. Today, I might have answered it 3 times. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So one thing, it's got a slight, you need to do a little reshaping of your mental model. So I'm not going to take another 10 minutes to do that, wasting everybody else's time. So 2. One is that I've written on this a blog in my LinkedIn. Go and read it. And the title is the same thing. Today, Dhanam magazine did the interview with me. They asked me the same question. I got the very long-winded answer. But I'll give you a very short, quick answer for you. Let's look at what is being done today. When you say consumer experience, first and foremost, you as a consumer, you make, let's say, 100 buys. Let's say 2-3 times you will have a problem. Correct? 97 times you will have no problem. In the 97 times, you are being cheated today. Because you are not being helped to take the right choice. Because somebody else is pushing stuff onto your mouth. They are trying to influence you. Because somebody has paid the influencers a share. So he is not letting you make the right choice. Isn't that a customer experience you should be worried about? But you don't even know because you've been brainwashed enough to think that it doesn't matter. And then you'll start saying, "Do the 2% mein kya ho jayega?" Let us be also very, before I go into the specific, even in 2% there is something. If I work in e-commerce and the other business also. If you look at this rejection and return, we have all been spoiled, you and me. Because the strategy for the platforms, any of them, I'm not particular, is to get a loyal set of buyers who will always stick with them. So pander their any unreasonable demands. If I have a problem, okay, it should be given back. Let me start with my daughter. She's 25 years old. When she wants to do an online purchase of a top, I ordered some 10 of them. Dada, I'll take 1, I'll 9, I'll get it back. Is it fair to that guy? Well, somebody has to pay for it. So we are being spoiled anyway. Having done that, we want to meet the expectation of the spoiled. But how do they manage to do that? You have a complaint, you'll go and put the buying site. You go and say, let's say you're going to buy a mobile phone. You go and say, I want a mobile phone. He will send that information to the seller site. He is not making mobile phone. It's some seller who is giving the mobile phone. So he will bring the thing and come back. And he will collect the money from you. And he will tell that seller, say that they go only if 1 month, only after 1 month, if no complaints, I will give you the money. The contract is there, his money is on your pocket. Then if the customer, like my daughter, who sends it back, I said, take it back, it's your problem, it's your loss. If you die, this guy will come. If he dies, this guy will come. How does it matter? Today, digital commerce, the penetration only 7%, like the sir said, the upper 10% of the society is the only one who's doing, and that also not fully. The penetration is only 7% on the buyer and less than 1% on the seller. So your options are getting limited. So those are also experience. Then that is how the control happens. Same thing can happen. Let's say that a buyer platform. Let's say all the names I use are just for, let's say HDFC Bank, it's a premium bank. They create a buyer platform. They say that I am only meeting the buyer platforms. I mean, they can. I'm not saying they're doing that. I'm just saying. They will also put the same thing in their buyer side. Say that Koshi asked for a mobile phone. They will broadcast to say that my condition is I'll give the money only after 1 month. If you want to take it, take it. So sellers, only such sellers will come. If you give it back, he will give you the money back. Because he wants to keep you a buyer. But one thing, for him, you're the only guy who's giving him the money or return. Because sellers are not his, like we said, his father's property. His sellers are not giving him anything. He needed to keep the buyer happy. So won't you go out of the way to make him happy? Correct? Today, similarly, I met this, Brahmins group. They have, let's say he put up this. They are all putting it up not for cheating everybody. They're putting to make a business. To make only some mistakes, some people are cheats. One thing is, when he came, he will put it up. Let's say that he has no. So let's say he come online to the ONDC. He make his catalog visible. Let's say he is getting a customer return. Supposing he says, no, I will not bother. His network rating will go down. Every buyer platform will just blacklist him. Does he want to do that? He will say, sometime even his unreal. That's a way. People are sensible people. They are all not out there to cheat. You are trying to design a system for the 2% of exception, completely messing up the industry and your own possibilities. You are being blind to the way you are being used. That is what you have to think. I just gave you some example. A lot more is there. Like we said, ONDC will do some common infrastructure like network-wide rating, due diligence before being admission, and so on and so forth. So that's why, because every place I go, this is a standard question. Because you have been brainwashed to say that. Please understand, it is not you should not design just for the 2%. You think about how your life is being influenced by the 97%. Thank you. One question and one answer. Long one, but.
So please do stay back because we really need to give you a token of our appreciation, and I'd like to bring back on stage Mr. Kurian Abraham, our Chief Editor and Managing Director, to present a memento to Mr. T. Koshi. With such deep concepts explained with such ease, such a master storyteller. Dhanam is extremely proud to have Mr. T. Koshi here. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you once again. And yes, I do understand that you're all eagerly waiting for that exciting part of the evening. We are an inch away from that. Before we dive into the award ceremony, I'd like you to take a quick look at a couple of audio visuals, please.
The journey of insurance and investments began at the same time when I invested in LIC SEEP. In this fast-moving world, SEEP can balance your funds with security and growth. SEEP will take care of the ups and downs of the market and will give you fruitful results so that you enjoy the ride. And when SEEP is with you, you can soar high!
LIC's unit-linked insurance plan SEEP offers savings and protection so that you can soar high in your life. LIC, हर पल आपके साथ.
നമ്മൾ പൂരം തുടിതാളം മഴയുടെ മേളം നീണ്ടു നിൽക്കും നരവന താളം പരിചകളുടെ വെയിലൊളി മേളം നെഞ്ചിനു താളം നിലവിനു മേളം ഇടക്കയുടുക്കും ഉരുക്കുമിടയിലെ
പാടത്തെ പാട്ടിൽ നിന്നോർത്തെടുക്കാം ഈണങ്ങൾ മേടത്തിൽ ചിങ്ങത്തിൽ പൂത്തിറങ്ങും വർണ്ണങ്ങൾ എണ്ണിത്തീരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ചൊല്ലിത്താ കഥകൾ നിറയും പല മട്ടുക്കും പാട്ടുകൾ പാടിത്താ മുത്താളം മുടിതാളം കളിയാടും നാടേ നിൻ തുഞ്ചത്ത്
I'd like to take another quick moment to introduce our sponsors to you. One more time. Our diamond sponsor, LIC of India, our gold sponsor, IBS Software, and our silver sponsors, V-Guard, Indian Oil Corporation, Provident Housing Windward, the video that you just saw now. Cochin Special Economic Zone, Group Miran, Cochin Shipyard, EduWorld, ROCA, ESAF, AVA, Lunars, KBIP, and BPCL. We also have our OOH media partner, Aishwarya, and our TV media partner, Janam TV. One round of applause for these fabulous people who have made this evening possible. Thank you. And now, it is that time of the evening. Dhanam is extremely proud to host this entire process of finding the best of the best, celebrating business excellence every year and handing out these very special awards every year. The last 2 years, for obvious reasons, this didn't happen, and that means this year, this award ceremony is even more special because we are celebrating winners who fought through these challenging times and have emerged winners still. So, first let me present to you the fabulous members of our jury who adjudged these winners. There they are, eminent people who know Kerala's business scene by the vein. Loud round of applause for these gentlemen who made these decisions. And of the 5 of them, we have Dr. V.A. Joseph and Nawaz Miran present here in the evening. Truly delighted by your presence, gentlemen. Are you here? Are you here? Yes. That's Mr. Miran. And Dr. Joseph, are you here as well? Yes. So delighted to see the faces because without acknowledging you, we cannot take this evening forward. So we have 6 very special categories, and we have 3 gentlemen who are going to be on stage through the announcement of these categories. I'd like to bring them on stage first. Our chief editor, Mr. Kurian Abraham, will bring us 2 special guests once again on the stage, Mr. K. M. Chandrasekhar and Mr. T. Koshi. All 3 of you, please. I'd like to have you on stage. And we have also arranged 3 chairs here for you to rest in between the categories as our winners take the podium to deliver the acceptance speeches. To present the first category of award, I'd like to bring on stage 2 more people. Ms. Bindu Roberts, Senior Divisional Manager of LIC of India. Ma'am, can we have you here? Welcome. Also, Mr. Manoj George, who's the Deputy General Manager of Circulation and Administration at Dhanam Publications. Can we have you on stage as well? Yes, so the stage is set to give away the first award. Of course, the first award, the Startup of the Year Award. Dhanam Startup of the Year 2021. Let's take a look.
honor Kerala's first unicorn open financial technologies with the Dhanam Startup of the Year 2021 award.
What a fabulous success story this is. Truly the pride of Kerala. Presenting to you the Open team. Welcome on stage. And all of you, please take the center stage to present this award to the Dhanam Startup of the Year, representing the successful rectangle of Open. We have Anish Achyutan, who is the CEO. We have Mabel Chako, who is the COO, and also Ajish Achyutan, who is the CTO of the company. To do the honors. That is Anish Achyutan receiving the Dhanam Startup of the Year award, representing the team. All of you join together for that happy group picture, please. Yes. Bindu ma'am, please join the picture. Yes. This is a proud moment for us indeed, because this is a made in Kerala success story, making all of us proud from the national scene and the global scene. A very young team making us proud. And I request the team to address the gathering, please. Anish. Loud round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dhanam, for this award. Really humbled to receive this. Awards like this are special for me because as someone who ran away from my home in the 2001 with the dream of building a startup to Trivandrum and Cochin, unfortunately, all the initial ventures which I actually tried didn't didn't reach the stage where it was supposed to be. But more than that, I was always like, the thing which I always, I was worried about is that nobody was able to understand the ecosystem. When you say that, okay, you're a startup entrepreneur, people were not able to understand. People were not trying to understand the concept of VCs. And then later, I went to Bangalore and other places. But one thing which I felt was that today, the ecosystem here actually have dramatically changed, as we have mentioned by the distinguished guests in the opening, the keynote sessions. Over the period of last 15 years, a lot of things have actually changed. For example, when we started Open in 2017, we consciously took a decision that, okay, let's get the company registered in Kerala, even though we are based out of Bangalore. A lot of people told, okay, why you wanted to do that? It's easy to raise funds. People will not really value and all. But, for us also, it was we realized that for our kind of a business, we need to be based out of Bangalore. But we kept the registered office over here. Now, our first institutional investment was facilitated by the Kerala Startup Mission through a fund from the Kerala government. Now, that 2 million actually led to, we have now raised our close to around $180 million US. That actually was the change, basically. So I keep hearing from everywhere that, okay, now Kerala is a state where, entrepreneurs doesn't grow, businesses doesn't actually happen. But the reality is that slowly we are seeing the government has actually, through the initiatives like Kerala Startup Mission, has actually put a lot of this initiatives, and we are seeing like a lot more startups coming in. So I'd like to especially thank the Kerala Startup Mission today, which I feel has been instrumental in probably what we are today. I'd also like to thank all our customers, the 25 lakh SMEs, our banking partners, our investors, and all the 500 plus openers. And I'd also like to dedicate this award to my fourth co-founder, Dina, because she's the one who's always been again, like, instrumental in saying that, okay, we should actually do something for the state of Kerala. We should actually change the registration, set up the registration of the company in a small town of Perindalmanna in Kerala. Unfortunately, due to a medical emergency, she couldn't actually come for this thing. So I'd like to dedicate this to Dina. Thanks, everyone. And, I also hope that this inspires more and more startups and entrepreneurs to, actually see from our state. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
What an inspiring story there. And please do convey our regards and wishes to Dina as well. We truly miss her today. That's the success rectangle of Open. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, let's hear it for them. And with that, we quickly move on to the next category, the Dhanam Outstanding Business Professional of the Year Award. Let's take a look.
He is holding responsible positions in organizations like IFEAT, the International Federation of Essential Oils and Aroma Trade, FAFAI, Fragrance and Flavor Association of India, AISEF, All India Spices Exporters Forum, TIE, MMEA, Mint Manufacturers and Exporters Association, FSSAI, Panel for Flavor Regulations, and is currently the chairman of CII Kerala State Council. Dhanam is pleased to bestow on Mr. Jimon Kora the Dhanam Outstanding Business Professional of the Year 2021 Award.
Yes, we'd like to bring on stage Mr. Jimon Kora, but to present this award, we'd also like to have on stage Mr. Ajit Kumar, Executive Director of BPCL Kochi Refinery, and Mr. Vijay Kurian Abraham, Vice President of Dhanam Publications. I request all of you gentlemen to take the center stage to be presenting this award. A man who has played a key role in building his organization to what it is today. And he has incubated and developed several new businesses. Please take the center stage, gentlemen. Mr. Jimon Kora, Dhanam Outstanding Business Professional of the Year 2021 for his excellent leadership and making his organization what it is today. Yes. Please take the center position. The spotlight is on you. Yes. We are awaiting your speed, sir. A photo moment indeed. Mr. Jimon Korau will now speak to us.
Thank you, Dhanam. It's a wonderful evening. And the recognition is not due to me, but to the Almighty. Thank the Lord for that. All my friends and colleagues who have been with me through this journey over the last 30 years, my wonderful family, and that one transformational phone call which I made from the Triumphant railway station, the day I actually quit my previous job and I was boarding the train to go back to Chennai, which is where I studied and did all my schooling and education. And that phone call, the person at the other end of the call said, "Since the train is going via Cochin, why don't you get off, meet me for 30 minutes and I will book you on the train for the next day." That 30-minute phone call made Kerala my home for the last 30 years. That's how life changes. And while we talk about the business environment, the startup environment, one that is good for entrepreneurs, all that is fine. But I must also say that in the last 30 years, that it has been transformational to be a professional in Kerala too. And the kind of environment, the kind of camaraderie, the kind of family values that you have in Kerala, I doubt if you would probably find it in other places in India or even overseas. I am me because you are you. Everything that all of us are is a function of what happens around you and the people around you, how you interact with them, how they interact with you. That makes you what you are. Thank you, everybody, for being who you are, for having made me what I am. Thank you so much.
A truly generous leader there. Congratulations. And now we move on to the next category, which is the Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year. Let's take a look.
Srinath Vishnu, Managing Director, Brahmins Foods. Take risks with a calculated plan is the winning formula that Srinath Vishnu believes in. And all those risks that he took and the innovations he devised have now taken Brahmins Foods, started by his father Vishnu Nambudiri, to a league of its own in Kerala's spices and breakfast food powder market. He joined Brahmins in 2006 and like a true visionary entrepreneur, he has turned the family business into a highly professionalized institution with a strong brand image and a varied range of products. Thanks to Srinath's long-term planning and strict adherence to quality, Brahmins is now a key player in the food business, marketing rice, flours, spices and spice mixes, pickles, coconut oil and coffee powder, right from the procurement of raw materials to final packaging. A man who believes in hard work and commitment, Srinath leads his team from the front with his vast managerial expertise and experience. Srinath is a co-chair of the Family Business Subcommittee in the Southern Regional Council of CII and was formerly the chairman of CII Kerala State Council. Dhanam is proud to confer on Mr. Srinath Vishnu the Dhanam Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year 2021 award.
As Mr. Srinath Vishnu takes stage, I'd also like to bring on stage Mr. Nawaz Miran, Chairman of Group Miran and Chief Executive Officer of Eastern Condiments. I'd also like to have on stage Ms. Maria Abraham, Executive Editor and Director of Dhanam Publications, to present this award. The Dhanam Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year 2021 is Srinath Vishnu of Brahmins Group. that happy group photo, of course. This is a moment of glory not just for the winners, it really is a proud moment for Dhanam, as well as the fact that it's a moment that will inspire a lot more business people, to do well, to do better for the next year. Mr. Srinath Vishnu will now speak to us.
Good evening, dignitaries on and off the dais. On behalf of entire Brahmins team, I declare my sincere thanks to Dhanam for this recognition. I'm revealing a secret now. I have been reading Dhanam since my college days, and this magazine was instrumental in shaping up an entrepreneur in me. I was fascinated about the stories which was appearing on Dhanam. I was admirably following the footprints of all the great entrepreneurs who have proven their abilities in the state. And I also thank my father, the founder chairman of Brahmins Group, Sri Vishnu Nambudiri, and my family, my colleagues at Brahmins, and my beloved customers for their support and for recognizing Brahmins as the South Indian ethnic vegetarian branch of India. And 2 days back, we celebrated our 35th anniversary. With this experience, I can confidently say that Kerala is one of the best states to run an industry. If we can run this industry with green manufacturing practice without hurting the nature, it is one of the best states to run an industry. We don't have any other production facilities anywhere in India. We have 4 factories in Kerala. We are happily running it. And we hope Kerala will emerge as a state for industries very soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the support.
A true made in Kerala story there. Once again, hearty congratulations, Mr. Srinath Vishnu. Your trophy will reach your seat. Yes. Are you ready for the next category? That's the 4th. So we are entering the second half of these awards. The NRI Businessman of the Year. Let's take a look. Great taste indeed. Welcoming him on stage. Also, let's have on stage Mr. Afzal Hamid, ICAS from Cochin Special Economic Zone. Also, Mr. Vijay Kurian Abraham, Vice President of Dhanam Publications, to present this award. story, not to mention his earlier entrepreneurial initiatives as well. Kerala is extremely proud about this businessman who has made his mark, not just abroad, but in his own homeland as well. The Dhanam NRI Businessman of the Year, Mr. K. Muralidharan.
Thank you. വേദിയിലും സദസ്സിലും ഇരിക്കുന്ന വിശിഷ്ട വ്യക്തിത്വങ്ങളെ, സഹോദരി സഹോദരന്മാരെ, വളരെ സന്തോഷത്തോടു കൂടിയാണ് ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളുടെ മുന്നിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നത്. എൻ്റെ മാതൃനാട്ടിൽ എനിക്ക് കിട്ടിയ ഒരു അംഗീകാരം, അതും വളരെ പ്രശസ്തമായ, ഞാനൊരു എംപ്ലോയി ആയിരുന്ന 80s തുടങ്ങിയ 34 വർഷങ്ങൾക്ക് മുമ്പ് തുടങ്ങിയ ധനം മാഗസിനിൽ നിന്ന് കിട്ടുന്ന റെക്കഗ്നേഷൻ. അന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം കുര്യൻ എബ്രഹാം കാണിച്ച ആ ധൈര്യം, നല്ലൊരു ജോലിയും ഉപേക്ഷിച്ച് വിദ്യാസമ്പന്നനായ ശ്രീ കുര്യൻ എബ്രഹാം ഒരു റിസ്ക് എടുത്താണ് ഈ ധനം മാഗസിൻ തുടങ്ങിയത്. അന്നത്തെ കാലത്ത് ഒരു വലിയ റിസ്ക്കാണ്. അതിലൂടെ എനിക്ക് പ്രചോദനം കിട്ടി. ഒരുപാട് ബിസിനസ്സുകാരുണ്ടായി, സംരംഭകരുണ്ടായി. ഇന്നിവിടെ എനിക്ക് മുമ്പ് അവാർഡ് വാങ്ങിച്ച അദ്ദേഹവും അതിൽ നിന്ന് പ്രചോദനത്തോടു കൂടി വാങ്ങിയെന്ന് കേട്ടപ്പോൾ വളരെയധികം ചാരിതാർത്ഥ്യവും സന്തോഷവും തോന്നി. എനിക്ക് എന്നെ സെലക്ട് ചെയ്ത, എളിയവനായ എന്നെ സെലക്ട് ചെയ്ത എന്ന് വേണം പറയാൻ. ഇതിൻ്റെ ജൂറി അംഗങ്ങളെ എല്ലാവരെയും ഞാൻ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ എൻ്റെ നന്ദിയോടെ സ്മരിക്കുകയാണ്. എന്നെപ്പറ്റി പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ 76 എൻ്റെ ജ്യേഷ്ഠ സഹോദരൻ എന്നെ ദുബായിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുപോയത്. അദ്ദേഹം വർക്ക് ചെയ്തിരുന്ന അതേ കമ്പനിയിൽ ഒരു അക്കൗണ്ട്സ് ക്ലർക്കായിട്ട് ജീവിതം തുടങ്ങി. 12 വർഷം കൊണ്ട് അതേ കമ്പനിയുടെ റീജിയണൽ മാനേജിംഗ് പാർട്ണറായി പടിപടിയായി ഉയരുവാനുള്ള സാഹചര്യം ഉണ്ടായി. മാനേജിംഗ് പാർട്ണറായപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ കമ്പനിയുടെ MD KM ബ്രദേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു കമ്പനിയാണ്, ഒരു KM ഭാട്ടിയായിരുന്നു മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടർ. അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ അനുഗ്രഹത്തോടെയാണ് ആദ്യമായി എൻ്റെ സ്വന്തമായൊരു സംരംഭം തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. ഒരു കോഫി ഷോപ്പ്, സാധാരണ നാട്ടിലൊക്കെ കാണുന്ന ഒരു കോഫി ഷോപ്പ്, ഒരു റെസ്റ്റോറൻറ്റ്, ഒരു അഡ്നോക്കിൻ്റെ ഫില്ലിംഗ് സ്റ്റേഷനിൽ തുടങ്ങിയ ആ സ്ഥാപനം വളരെ വിജയകരമായി 2 വർഷം തുടർന്നു കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ സാധിച്ചു. കുറച്ച് ലാഭമൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കി. 2 വർഷം കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പം പുതിയ മാനേജ്മെൻറ്റ് ഒരു ഫില്ലിംഗ് സ്റ്റേഷനിലായിരുന്നു. പുതിയ വന്ന ഓവർസീസ് എഡ്യൂക്കേറ്റഡ് മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടർ ഓഫ് അഡ്നോക്ക് എന്നെ അവിടെ നിന്ന് എൻ്റെ ലൈസൻസ്, എൻ്റെ ടെനൻസി പുതുക്കി തന്നില്ല. KFCക്ക് കൊടുത്തു ആ സ്ഥലം. KFC വിദേശത്തൊക്കെ പ്രൊഫഷണലായിട്ട് ഈ ഗ്യാസ് സെൻറ്റേഴ്സിലൊക്കെ ഒരുപാട് സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളുള്ള ഒരു മൾട്ടിനാഷണൽ പ്രസ്ഥാനമാണ്. അത് എനിക്ക് എൻ്റെ ടെനൻസി റിന്യൂ ചെയ്യാതെ ഇരുന്നത്, ഒരു സാധാരണ കോഫി ഷോപ്പ് കൊണ്ടിരുന്നാൽ ഗ്രോത്തൊന്നും ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. ഇന്നൊരു പ്രൊഫഷണലിസവും ഒരു ഇൻ്റർനാഷണൽ സ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡൊക്കെ ഉള്ള ബിസിനസ്സിലേക്ക് മാറണം എന്നൊരു ആഗ്രഹം എന്നിലുണ്ടാവുകയും ചിന്താഗതി എന്നിലുണ്ടാവുകയും അതിനുവേണ്ടി ശ്രമിച്ച് ഞാൻ ഫാസ്റ്റ് ഫുഡ് സിസ്റ്റം എന്നുള്ള ഒരു കമ്പനി UK ഒരു കമ്പനിയിൽ 2 ആഴ്ചത്തെ ഫാസ്റ്റ് ഫുഡിൻ്റെ ട്രെയിനിങ്ങിന് പോയി. അവരുടെ തന്നെ ഒരു കൊളാബറേഷൻ, ഒരു ടെക്നിക്കൽ കൊളാബറേഷനോടുകൂടി ഞാൻ തിരിച്ച് ഒരു ഫാസ്റ്റ് ഫുഡ് ചെയിൻ ഷോപ്പ് തുടങ്ങി അബുദാബിയിൽ. അതാണ് എൻ്റെ ഫാസ്റ്റ് ഫുഡ് മേഖലയിലുള്ള, നിങ്ങൾ നേരത്തെ ഇവിടെ കണ്ട SFC സദേൺ ഫ്രൈഡ് ചിക്കൻ. അത് 1 നിന്ന് 2 ഇന്ന് 30ഓളം ഔട്ട്ലെറ്റുകളുണ്ട് UAEയുടെ വിവിധ സ്ഥാനങ്ങളിൽ. എൻ്റെ കോൺട്രാക്റ്റ് പുതുക്കാതിരുന്നതിൻ്റെ തൊട്ടടുത്താണ് എൻ്റെ ആദ്യത്തെ സ്ഥാപനം ഞാൻ തുടങ്ങിയത്. പിന്നെ അഡ്നോക്കിൻ്റെ ഒരുപാട് ഔട്ട്ലെറ്റുകളിൽ ഞങ്ങളുടെ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളുണ്ട്. നമ്മൾ കഠിനാധ്വാനം ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, നമ്മുടെ വിഷൻ ശരിയാണെങ്കിലും തിരിച്ച് നമുക്ക് ഏത് രീതിയിലും എത്തിപ്പറ്റാമെന്നുള്ള പ്രചോദനമാണ് എനിക്കത് കിട്ടിയത്. പിന്നെ അതിനുശേഷം വി ബിൽറ്റ് അനദർ ബ്രാൻഡ്, ഇന്ത്യ പാലസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന അത്തൻറ്റിക് ഇന്ത്യൻ റെസ്റ്റോറൻ്റാണ്. ഈ കഴിഞ്ഞ 2 ആഴ്ച മുമ്പേ UAEയിലെ അബുദാബിയിൽ അർബൻ ട്രഷർ എന്നുള്ളൊരു കാറ്റഗറിയിൽ 15 സ്ഥാപനങ്ങളെ അവർ ഉൾപ്പെടുത്തിയപ്പോൾ ഇന്ത്യ പാലസും അതിലുണ്ടായി. It was another success for us. That was the only Indian company, Indian restaurant they have chosen as urban treasure brand. ഏതൊരു വിദേശിയുടെയും ആഗ്രഹമാണ്, പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും ഗൾഫിലുള്ളവർക്ക്, നാട്ടിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും തുടങ്ങണമെന്ന്. ആ ഉദ്ദേശത്തോടു കൂടിയാണ് ഞാൻ 4-5 വർഷം മുമ്പേ എനിക്കറിയാവുന്ന ഒരു ബിസിനസ് ഡയറി. എൻ്റെ അച്ഛൻ മില്ലുകാരനായിരുന്നു, റൈസ് മില്ലും ഫ്ലവർ മില്ലും ഒക്കെ നാട്ടിലുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് കുറച്ച് കന്നുകാലിയൊക്കെ വീട്ടിൽ തന്നെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഐ തോട്ട് വൈ നോട്ട് ഒരു പ്രൊഫഷണലായിട്ട് ഒരു കോൾഡ് ഡിസ്ട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ ചെയിനോട് കൂടി ഒരു ഡയറി ഫാം തുടങ്ങിയാൽ എന്താ. എനിക്ക് ഒരു വിദേശിയെ, ഡച്ചുകാരനെ മാനേജരായിട്ട് കിട്ടി. He set up an state-of-art dairy farm in Tamil Nadu in 500 acres of land, 4,000 milking cows, 1,000 facilities, a mega dairy project. We set up a processing plant, state-of-art in Triumphant, and we started distribution of milk. I can proudly say over 100,000 liters we are distributing daily. And not only that, it has become a household name. Our chief guest എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞു, അദ്ദേഹം ഞങ്ങളുടെ പാലാ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നതെന്ന്. And it has become a household name, especially in Trivandrum and Kollam district. We are just slowly entering now to Aleppi and Ernakulam. We are also signed up for a processing plant in Angamali in KSIDC project. ഇതെല്ലാം സാധിച്ചത് ഒരു ബ്രാൻഡ് ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ, നമ്മൾക്ക് ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് ഈസി ടു ബിൽഡ് എ ബ്രാൻഡ്. ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ഹാർഡ് വർക്ക് ആൻഡ് എഫേർട്ട്, ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ട്രാൻസ്പെറൻസി, സിൻസിയാരിറ്റി, ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് ഫൗണ്ടേഷൻ ഒരു ബ്രാൻഡ് ബിൽഡിങ്. ധനം ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് കണക്ക് ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാവരും ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന, എന്നോടൊപ്പം അവാർഡ് കിട്ടിയ മലബാർ ഗോൾഡ് ആയാലും ജ്യോതി ലാബ് ആയാലും മറ്റുള്ള എല്ലാ അവാർഡ് കിട്ടിയവർക്കെല്ലാം ഒരുപാട് എഫേർട്ട് ഇട്ടിട്ടാണ് ഈ ബ്രാൻഡ് ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. നമ്മൾ കോംപ്രമൈസ് ചെയ്യാതെ, ക്വാളിറ്റി കോംപ്രമൈസ് ചെയ്യാതെ കഠിനാധ്വാനം ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, വിഷൻ ശരിയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ബ്ലെസ്സിങ് ഉണ്ടാവും, സക്സസ്ഫുള്ളാകും. എനിക്കിന്ന് എന്നെ റെക്കഗ്നൈസ് ചെയ്ത ഈ എല്ലാ ഭാരവാഹികളെയും, ധനത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാരവാഹികളെയും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ടും എന്നെ ഞാനാക്കിയ എൻ്റെ ഗുരുകാരണവർമാർക്ക് മുൻപിൽ ശിരസ് നമിച്ചുകൊണ്ടും ഞാൻ ഈ അവാർഡ് സസന്തോഷം സ്വീകരിക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
A product like milk, which is a matter of habit, 5 വർഷം കൊണ്ട് ഒരു ശീലം മലയാളിയുടെ മാറ്റി, മുരള്യ മാത്രമേ കുടിക്കൂ എന്ന് എനിക്ക് പേഴ്സണലി അറിയാവുന്ന ഒരുപാട് പേർ തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് ഇപ്പോൾ ഉണ്ട്. ഐ എം ട്രൂലി ഡിലൈറ്റഡ് ടു witness this success. Hearty congratulations, and we move on to the penultimate award this evening, Dhanam Woman Entrepreneur of the Year. Let's take a look.
Jyoti MR, Managing Director, Jyoti Labs. Making a name for herself as the new gen leader of a family-grown enterprise did not come easy. Because when Jyoti MR took charge as the Managing Director of Jyoti Labs on 1st April 2020, the industry was facing the unprecedented challenges of a pandemic-induced meltdown. It was trial by fire, but Jyoti emerged the winner, making Jyoti Labs one of the few FMCGs that marked high growth in financial year 21. The company registered a top-line growth of 15.1% in FY 22-2. To her goes the credit of effectively handling rising prices while expanding the portfolio of Jyoti Labs that owns some of India's most trusted brands. Her insight into consumer behavior and product innovations has made Jyoti one of the most powerful women business leaders of this generation. She was recognized as the most promising woman entrepreneur to watch out for by ET Industry Leaders Rest 2020 and was the Businesswoman Entrepreneur of the Year in 2019. Highly commendable is the way she leads the company, never compromising the values inherited from her illustrious father, MP Ramachandran, as she takes Jyoti Labs to new heights. Dhanam is elated to bestow on Jyoti MR the Dhanam Woman Entrepreneur of the Year 2021 award.
The woman who lends her name to the company, now taking the company to greater heights. So delighted to have Jyoti on stage. I'd also like to bring on stage Ms. Maria Abraham, Executive Editor, and also Geena T.S., Associate Editor from Dhanam Publications, to present this award. MR Jyoti is a winner of several business awards, and Dhanam is very proud to be presenting to this special award to Ms. MR Jyoti. The leader of a company with over 5,000 employees and 24 manufacturing units, Jyoti Laboratories is truly a success story that makes Malayalis proud. And now let's listen to Ms. Jyoti MR.
Hi, good evening, all of you. And I thank Dhanam Business magazine to honor me with such a great, on such a great platform where all of you are here present. I would also like to thank my parents, my father, who has actually taught me the foundations of business. I've grown seeing him doing all the hard work, not even having a Sunday. I've seen him really work hard and have grown up seeing him. And the title is, the Woman Entrepreneur of the Year. It's since last 2 years, as in, like it was told, in 2020 is when I assumed this role. And it was, we know where we stepped into. It was total chaos. And today, why I am standing here today is because of the blessings of my parents, real hard work done by my colleagues on and off the field, who has stood by the company, since there are many people who are present here, who has been with the company since its inception, and the new colleagues as well, who has stood with the company, who has stood by me, working through all day and night on the field in all the difficult circumstances, trying to deliver the best we can. And also, I would like to thank my consumers who has believed in our products, in our capability of offering them the best we can. We reach 1 lakh, as in 10 lakh outlets directly, and it's and still growing. And I would also like to thank God for giving me this opportunity to serve my consumers and my country. This company started in 1983 it was started by my father, Mr. M.P. Ramchandran, and he's built it brick by brick, and I'm really proud that it has made Kerala proud. Every consumer in Kerala respects this company, and also consumers across India respects our company. I have a lot of things to achieve, a lot of milestones to achieve. It's only 2 years that I've been handling. Prior to that, I was handling the marketing operations of all the brands since last 15 years. And I thank the board, and yeah, that's it. I would like to do a lot in life, and a lot of good stories around here, and would want to achieve more milestones and achieve a different business award, and not under, in the women section. I think it should be an award that actually takes no gender this thing, and it actually, truly, what do you say? yeah, the business person of the year is what I would want to achieve. But I still thank Dhanam for recognizing women and to give a platform for women. That's something really nice. One thing which for me especially, my parents have never had any bias towards any gender or nothing like a boy or a girl. My father was always pro-women, and in fact he calls, he says that if there is a girl born, it's Lakshmi, so who has come home. So that's how he takes it, and he has always been encouraging me, and saying that, he used to give me examples of Indira Gandhi and many other women who has done. This is from my childhood, and I always had the thing that wherever I am, I want to build this business, I want to be with my dad, I want to make him proud, and I want to make each and every employee, each and every colleague of my company, proud. So, and all the stakeholders, all the vendors, all the suppliers, all of them, all the shareholders, whoever is associated with the company has to be benefited, has to have a lot of growth being associated with the company. And I thank Dhanam once again for bestowing this award on me. Thank you.
Your father named his entire organization after you. We have no doubts about the fact that, he takes women even more seriously than men. What a fascinating story. In fact, it's a very delightful memory, from Dhanam events. I still remember that session when Ramachandran sir was, strolling this stage in his candid style, and he was telling his origin story of Ujala, how he went from door to door selling this product, which has now become a part of our life. What a fascinating story there, and all the very best to you, Jyoti. May you take the organization to even greater heights. And with that, we come to the final award of this evening, that award which Jyoti was talking about.
Social responsibility. MP Ahmed has earmarked 5% of the company's profits for various initiatives focusing on education, health, women's empowerment, housing for the poor, and environmental protection. He refuses to call it charity. For him, it's an obligation to give back to society a share of what he has earned. Dhanam salutes this extraordinary personality and bestows on him the Dhanam Businessman of the Year 2021 award.
Let's bring on stage the man with the Midas touch, Mr. MP Ahmed. And to present this award, I'd like to also have on stage our jury members, Mr. Nawaz Miran, Chairman of Group Miran, and also Dr. B.A. Joseph, former Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of South Indian Bank. Also joined by Ms. Maria Abraham and Mr. Vijay Kurian Abraham. A brand which has a showroom network of more than 280 number spread across 10 countries. An astute businessman who is a textbook, I would say, for any aspiring entrepreneur. Making in India for the world. That's Mr. MP Ahmed of Malabar Gold and Diamonds. Dhanam, Businessman of the Year 2021. Let's hear it from him now. The photographers can't have enough of them. Shri MP Ahmed, ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മളോട് സംസാരിക്കുന്നു.
ബഹുമാന്യരായ സദസ്സിനും വേദിയിലും ഇരിക്കുന്ന ബഹുമാന്യ വ്യക്തിത്വങ്ങളെ, ഞങ്ങൾ വളരെ എളിയ രീതിയിൽ തുടങ്ങി ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിച്ചു. കഴിഞ്ഞ 10-29 വർഷങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ട് അതൊരു വലിയ അനുഗ്രഹമായി കാണുന്നു. ദൈവത്തിന് സ്തുതി, അൽഹംദുലില്ലാ, ദൈവത്തിന് സ്തുതി. എനിക്ക് ധനം മാഗസിൻ 10-29 വർഷങ്ങളിൽ 3-4 പ്രാവശ്യം ഞങ്ങൾ ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. 2-3 പ്രാവശ്യം ഇതേ സ്റ്റേജിൽ തന്നെ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. വളരെയധികം പ്രോത്സാഹനമാണ് ബിസിനസ് രംഗത്ത് പുതുതായി വരുന്ന ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ധനം മാഗസിൻ നൽകുന്നത്. എൻ്റർപ്രണേഴ്സിനെ പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത് എപ്പോഴും നല്ലതാണ്. നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ എൻ്റർപ്രണേഴ്സ് വളർന്നു വരേണ്ടതായിട്ടുണ്ട്. പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും കേരളത്തിൽ എൻ്റർപ്രണേഴ്സിനെ വലിയൊരു പ്രോത്സാഹനമില്ലാതിരുന്നൊരു കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ സമ്പത്തുണ്ടാവുന്നത് പാപമാണെന്ന് വിശ്വസിക്കുന്ന ഒരുപാട് ആൾക്കാരുള്ള ഒരു സ്റ്റേറ്റിൽ അതിനെ പ്രോത്സാഹനമായി മാറ്റിക്കൊണ്ട് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന മാർഗം നന്നായിരിക്കണം, ചെലവഴിക്കുന്ന മാർഗവും നന്നായിരിക്കണം എന്ന രീതിയിൽ പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു മാഗസിൻ, അത് ധനം മാഗസിൻ, അതൊരു പോസിറ്റീവായിട്ട് കണ്ടുകൊണ്ട് ഒരുപാട് എൻ്റർപ്രണേഴ്സ് നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ വളർന്നു വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. സന്തോഷകരമാണ്. അത്തരം എൻ്റർപ്രണേഴ്സിനെ പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കുന്നതിലും വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷമാണ്. ബഹുമാന്യനായ നമ്മുടെ കീനോട്ട് അഡ്രസ് ചെയ്ത അദ്ദേഹവും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ചീഫ് ഗസ്റ്റും ചന്ദ്രശേഖർ, ബഹുമാന്യനായ ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യൻ്റെ ക്യാബിനറ്റ് സെക്രട്ടറി ആയിരുന്നു. അതുപോലെ കീനോട്ട് അഡ്രസ് ചെയ്ത അദ്ദേഹമൊക്കെ തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞ ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് ഒരുപാട് മനസ്സിലാക്കാനും ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ പഠിക്കാനുമുണ്ട്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ റെക്കഗ്നൈസ് ചെയ്ത അവാർഡ് കൊടുത്ത ഓരോ ആൾക്കാരും, പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും മുരളിയേട്ടൻ എൻ്റെ ഒരു പഴയ ഒരു സുഹൃത്താണ്, റിലേഷൻസ് ഉണ്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ. അതുപോലെ രാമചന്ദ്രൻ്റെ മകൾ ജ്യോതി, രാമചന്ദ്രൻ ഞാനും ഇതേ സ്റ്റേജിൽ തന്നെ 1-2 പ്രാവശ്യം വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുപോലെ ബ്രാഹ്മിൺസ്, അതുപോലെ കോച്ച് ജീവോൺ കോച്ച്, മറ്റെല്ലാവർക്കും എൻ്റെ അഭിനന്ദനങ്ങളും സന്തോഷങ്ങളും അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇവിടെ ഉള്ളതിൽ ഭൂരിപക്ഷം സദസ്സിലിരിക്കുന്നതിന് നല്ലൊരു ശതമാനം ആൾക്കാർ പരിചയക്കാരും വളരെ വേണ്ടപ്പെട്ടവരുമാണ്. എല്ലാവരോടും എൻ്റെ സ്നേഹാന്വേഷണങ്ങൾ അറിയിക്കുന്നു. മലബാർ ഗ്രൂപ്പിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം മേക്കിംഗ് ഇന്ത്യ മാർക്കറ്റ് ടു ദ വേൾഡ്, ഇന്ത്യയിലുണ്ടാക്കി വേൾഡിൽ മാർക്കറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഉദ്ദേശത്തോടുകൂടിയാണ് മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുന്നത്. ഇന്ന് ഏകദേശം 15,000-ഓളം ആൾക്കാർ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇന്ത്യയിൽ ഒരുപാട് ക്വാളിഫൈഡ് യൂത്ത് മാൻ പവർ ഉണ്ട്. അവർക്ക് അങ്ങനെ ജോലി കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റും. എത്ര ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ജോലി കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റും? ഞങ്ങളുടെ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാവരെയും കയ്യിൽ കാണും, ഇത് കാണുന്നുണ്ട്, ഗിഫ്റ്റ് ആർട്ടിക്കിളാണ്. സ്നേഹത്തിൻ്റെയും ബഹുമാനത്തിൻ്റെയും അഭിമാനത്തിൻ്റെയും ഭാഗമായിട്ട് കൊടുക്കുന്ന ഗിഫ്റ്റിംഗ് ആണ്. ഗിഫ്റ്റ് കിട്ടുന്ന ആൾക്കും കൊടുക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാർക്കും സന്തോഷമാണ്. കൊടുക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കും സന്തോഷമാണ്, കിട്ടുന്ന ആൾക്കും സന്തോഷമാണ്. അടുത്തൊരു ഗിഫ്റ്റ് ആർട്ടിക്കിളാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ പ്രൊഡക്റ്റ്. ഇതിന് 1993 ഞങ്ങൾ തുടങ്ങിയ ഫസ്റ്റ് പരസ്യം ക്വാളിറ്റി ആയിരുന്നു. നിങ്ങൾ മുടക്കുന്ന പണത്തിന് തുല്യമായ ക്വാളിറ്റി നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കിട്ടാൻ നിങ്ങൾ ബാധ്യസ്ഥരാണ്. ഇത് ബോധ്യപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് ക്വാളിറ്റി മാത്രം മാർക്കറ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് വളർന്നു വന്നൊരു കമ്പനിയാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ. ക്വാളിറ്റിയും അതുപോലെ കമ്മിറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് ഓഫ് ഫുൾഫിൽമെൻറ്റ് ഓഫ് ദ കമ്മിറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ്. എന്താണോ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് തരുന്ന വാഗ്ദാനം അത് പാലിക്കപ്പെടണം. ഇപ്പോഴും ഇന്നും ഞങ്ങൾ പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ വാഗ്ദാനങ്ങളും പാലിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് പ്രോമിസ് തന്നെ പ്രൊമോട്ട് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടാണ്. കാരണം അതാണ് ഗോൾഡ് ആൾക്കാരെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം വേറബിൾ ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെൻറ്റാണ്, ധരിക്കുന്നൊരു ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെൻറ്റാണ്. നമ്മുടെ മക്കൾക്കും സഹോദരിമാർക്കും അമ്മയ്ക്കും ഒക്കെ കൊടുക്കുന്ന ഗിഫ്റ്റ് ആർട്ടിക്കിളാണ്. അതിന് വാല്യൂ ഉണ്ട്, ലൈഫ് ലോങ് അതിൻ്റെ മെയിൻ്റനൻസ് വേണം, അത് തലമുറകൾ കൈമാറാനുള്ളതാണ്. അതിൻ്റെ പൂർണ്ണ സത്ത ഉൾക്കൊണ്ടുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെയാണ് ഞാൻ ഈ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയിലേക്ക് വന്നത്. വരുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് മലഞ്ചരക്ക് വ്യാപാരത്തിലായിരുന്നു. അന്ന് ഈ ബിസിനസ്സിനെ പഠിച്ചിട്ട് ഇതിലൊരു ഗ്യാപ്പ് കണ്ടു. ക്വാളിറ്റി ഡെലിവറി ഇല്ല. ഇതിലെ മേജർ ആ സമയത്തുണ്ടായിരുന്ന ഗ്യാപ്പ് ക്വാളിറ്റി കൊടുക്കുന്നില്ല എന്ന്. അങ്ങനെ 916ഉം ഹോൾമാർക്കിങ്ങും ഒക്കെ മാർക്കറ്റ് ചെയ്തു. ക്വാളിറ്റി കൊടുത്തു, സർവീസ് കൊടുത്തു, ലൈഫ് ലോങ് ഫ്രീ മെയിൻ്റനൻസും ക്യാഷ് ബാക്ക് ഗ്യാരൻറ്റിയൊക്കെ കൊടുത്തു. ഇന്ന് വേൾഡിൽ US ഞങ്ങൾ കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷം 200% ഗ്രോത്താണ്. സിംഗപ്പൂർ 150% ഗ്രോത്താണ്. മലേഷ്യയിൽ മലേസ് തന്നെ അതിനുള്ളിൽ, സൗദി അറേബ്യയിലും ഗൾഫ് കൺട്രീസിലൊക്കെ തന്നെയും അറബ്സ് വല്ലാതെ അഡ്മിറ്റ് ചെയ്ത്. സാധാരണ മലബാർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അവരെ വീട്ടിലെ ജോലിക്കാരും ഡ്രൈവർമാരൊക്കെ ആയിരുന്നു മലബാരികൾ. സോ ദാറ്റ് റൗണ്ട് മലബാർ ഈസ് ഗുഡ് എന്ന് അവർ പറയുന്ന രീതിയിലേക്ക് എത്തിച്ചു. അവർ ഒരുപാട് അറബിന് വേണ്ടിക്കൊണ്ട് മാത്രമുള്ള സ്റ്റോഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്, കസ്റ്റമേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് എത്താൻ പറ്റി. നമ്മളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ലോകം വലുതാണ്, ലോകം ഒന്നാണ്. ഭാഷകളും അതിരുകളൊക്കെ ഭരിക്കാനും മറ്റ് കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേഷനൊക്കെ വേണ്ടി ഓരോ സമയത്ത് ഓരോ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ലോകം ഒന്നായിട്ട് കാണുക, സ്നേഹം, ബഹുമാനം, പരസ്പരം മനുഷ്യ സമൂഹത്തെ സ്നേഹിക്കാനും ബഹുമാനിക്കാനും അതിനു വേണ്ടി നമ്മൾ സമയം നീക്കി വെക്കുക ഒരു വലിയ കാര്യമുണ്ട്. അതിലാണ് എല്ലാ രീതിയിലും നമ്മൾ മുന്നോട്ട് പോകേണ്ടത്. നമ്മൾ എൻവയറമെൻ്റലി, നേരത്തെ എൻ്റെ സുഹൃത്ത് പറഞ്ഞ മാതിരി പ്രകൃതിയായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഏകിച്ചേരേണ്ടതുണ്ട്. അതുപോലെ സോഷ്യൽ കമ്മിറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് ഉണ്ടാകേണ്ടത്. ഏത് രാജ്യത്ത് പോയാലും ആ രാജ്യത്തിൻ്റെ നിയമം 100% പാലിക്കണം. ഞങ്ങളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ഏത് രാജ്യത്ത് പോയാലും ആ രാജ്യത്തിൻ്റെ, ഇന്ന് 10 രാജ്യത്തുണ്ട്, ഈ വർഷം ഒരു 4 രാജ്യവും കൂടി പുതുതായിട്ട് വരും. അതാത് രാജ്യത്തിൻ്റെ നിയമം പൂർണ്ണമായും പാലിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് പൂർണ്ണമായും നികുതികൾ ഒടുക്കി എന്തൊക്കെ നിയമമുണ്ടോ അത് പൂർണ്ണമായും പാലിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഇന്നെനിക്ക് വളരെ സന്തോഷകരമായും പറയാൻ പറ്റും, എവിടെയും ഞങ്ങളൊരു ഇല്ലീഗൽ ഇല്ല, ഒരു പ്രശ്നങ്ങളില്ല. കാരണം ലീഗൽ ബാധിക്കുക, നികുതി കൊടുക്കുക, അതാണ് രാജ്യത്തിൻ്റെ വരുമാനം, രാജ്യത്തിൻ്റെ വളർച്ച, പാവപ്പെട്ടവൻ്റെ ചികിത്സ, റോഡ് എല്ലാം വരുന്നതാണ്. അതിൽ ഒരു തരത്തിലും നിരുത്സാഹപ്പെടുത്താതിരിക്കുക. നമ്മുടെ ഇന്ത്യയിലുള്ള നമുക്കറിയാം ഒരുപാട് ടാക്സുകൾ പല രീതികളുണ്ട്. ഇനിയും ഒരുപാട് ഏകീകരിച്ച് മിനിമൈസ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടതുണ്ട്. ടാക്സ് മിനിമൈസ് ചെയ്യും എല്ലാവരും കൊടുക്കുന്ന രീതിയിൽ വന്നാൽ ഇന്ത്യൻ്റെ GDP-ന്ന് $2.5 ബില്യൺ പറയുന്നത് ശരിക്കും 5 ബില്യൺ ആവും 5 വർഷം കൊണ്ട്. ശരിക്കും ഇപ്പം തന്നെ 5 ബില്യൺ ഉണ്ട് അക്കൗണ്ടിൽ വന്നാൽ. അൺഅക്കൗണ്ടാണ് പകുതിയിലധികം നടക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അക്കൗണ്ടിങ് ബിസിനസ്സിലേക്ക് രാജ്യത്തിനെ മൊത്തം കൊണ്ടുവരിക, ഈ ഗവേണിംഗ് സിസ്റ്റം കൊണ്ടുവരിക, ഡിജിറ്റൽ ന്യൂ ടെക്നോളജി. ഈ വർഷം ഞങ്ങൾ ഏതാണ്ട് 200 കോടി രൂപയുടെ അടുത്താണ് ടെക്നോളജിക്ക് ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ടെക്നോളജി ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇനി ബിസിനസ് ഇല്ല. ടെക്നോളജിയാണ് ഇനി ബിസിനസ്സിൻ്റെ ഫ്യൂച്ചർ. എല്ലാ രംഗത്തും ടെക്നോളജി യൂസ് ചെയ്യുക, ഈ ഗവേണിംഗ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുക, ഇലക്ട്രോണിക്സ് മാധ്യമങ്ങൾ വളരെ നന്നായിട്ട് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുക. നല്ല രീതിയിൽ പുരോഗതിക്ക് ഒരുപാട് സാധ്യതയുണ്ട്. ഇന്ത്യയിൽ ജോലി ചെയ്യാൻ പ്രാപ്തിയുള്ള കഴിവുള്ള യൂത്ത് മാൻ പവർ ലോകത്ത് നിന്ന് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ ഇന്ത്യയിലാണ്. നേരം വെളുത്ത് ഈവനിങ് ആയി മേക്കിംഗ് ഇന്ത്യ മാർക്കറ്റ് ദ വേൾഡ് എല്ലാ ഐറ്റവും. ഇന്ന് പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും നമ്മുടെ കീനോട്ട് അഡ്രസ്സുള്ള ആൾ പറഞ്ഞു, ചൈന നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവരും സംശയത്തോടു കൂടി നോക്കുന്ന ഒരു കാലഘട്ടമാണ്. ഇന്ത്യയിൽ ഒരുപാട് പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ ചെയ്യാനും എക്സ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യാനൊക്കെ ഉള്ള ഒരുപാട് സാധ്യതയുണ്ട്. ഇലക്ട്രോണിക്സ് രംഗത്തായാലും എല്ലാ രംഗത്തും എല്ലാ പ്രൊഡക്റ്റിലും ഒരുപാട് സാധ്യതകളുണ്ട്. അത് ഏത് സ്റ്റേറ്റിലും ആവാം, നമ്മുടെ സ്റ്റേറ്റിലും ആവാം. എല്ലാ സംഘത്തും സ്ഥിതി മാറിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇന്ന് എല്ലാവർക്കും ജോലി വേണം, നിലനിൽപ്പ് വേണം, ബെറ്റർ ലൈഫ് വേണം. AC കാറും AC റൂമിൽ നിന്ന് ലക്ഷറി അല്ല. കാറൊക്കെ എല്ലാവർക്കും വേണം, റൂം എല്ലാവർക്കും AC വേണം. അപ്പോൾ ലക്ഷറി എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ നിന്നൊക്കെ പോയി ആവശ്യകതയായി മാറിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ബെറ്റർ ലൈഫ് എല്ലാവരും ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. ആ ബെറ്റർ ലൈഫ് ഉണ്ടാവണമെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ബെറ്റർ ജോബ് ഉണ്ടാവണം. ജോബില്ലാത്ത ഒരുപാട് ആൾക്കാർ നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്തുണ്ട്. നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്ത് ജോബ്ലെസ് വളരെ കൂടുതലാണ്. ഒരുപാട് യൂത്ത് ക്വാളിഫൈഡ് മാൻ പവർ ജോലിക്ക് വേണ്ടി വിദേശ രാജ്യങ്ങളിൽ പോയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അതൊരു നല്ല സൂചനയാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ നിലനിൽക്കുന്നത്, കേരളം നിലനിൽക്കുന്നത്. വിദേശ രാജ്യങ്ങളിൽ പോകണം. നമുക്ക് ഫോറിൻ റെമിറ്റൻസ്, ഇന്ത്യയിൽ നിന്ന് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ എക്സ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യാനുള്ളത് മാൻ പവർ തന്നെയാണ്, യാതൊരു സംശയവുമില്ല. ഇന്ത്യയിൽ നിന്ന് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ എക്സ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യപ്പെടേണ്ടത് മാൻ പവറാണ്. വേൾഡിൽ എവിടെ പോയാലും ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ആദ്യം കിട്ടുന്ന ഒരു ടീം മലയാളികളുണ്ടാവും. അവിടെ ഒരു മലയാളി സംഘടനയുണ്ടാവും. ആദ്യം തന്നെ ഓണം ആഘോഷം ഞങ്ങൾ വകയായിരിക്കും. ആ രീതിയിലാണ് പല സ്ഥലത്ത് പോയാലും, എവിടെ ലോകത്തെവിടെ ഇന്ത്യൻ്റെ ഏത് സ്റ്റേറ്റ് പോയാലും അവിടെ ഒരു മലയാളി അസോസിയേഷൻ ഉണ്ടാവും. അവർ വേഗം വരും, മലബാറല്ലേ വാന്ന്. നമ്മളത് അവരെയും പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കും. ആ രീതിയിൽ തന്നെയാണ് കാര്യങ്ങൾ. ഇന്ന് ഇന്ത്യയിൽ തന്നെ ഏതാണ്ട് ഒരു 182 സ്ഥലത്ത് ഇന്ത്യയിലും 140 ഇന്ത്യക്ക് വെളിയിലും ഷോറൂമുകൾ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് തുടങ്ങാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞു. ഏതാണ്ട് 284 അങ്ങനെ ഷോറൂമായി. ഈ വർഷം തന്നെ 100 ഷോറൂം തുടങ്ങുന്നു. ഏതാണ്ട് 30,000 കോടിൻ്റെ മേലെ ടേൺ ഓവർ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റി. ഇന്ത്യ ഗവൺമെൻറ് വലിയൊരു ടാക്സ് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റി. സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ഗവൺമെൻറ് കൊടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. എല്ലാം വളരെ നല്ല രീതിയിൽ പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. 10,000-15,000 പേർക്ക് ജോലി കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇത് ഒരു തീരുമാനം മാത്രമാണ് ഞങ്ങളെടുത്തത്. വളരെ സ്ട്രൈറ്റ് ഫോർവേഡായിട്ട് പോകണം. ആരും എവിടെയും ചീറ്റ് ചെയ്യപ്പെടരുത്. ബ്രാൻഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നതാണ്, വിശ്വസ്തതയാണ്. ആ വിശ്വസ്തത നമ്മൾ സംസാരിച്ചാൽ പോരാ, അഡ്വർടൈസ്മെൻറ്റ് ചെയ്താൽ പോരാ, ഡെലിവറി കൊടുക്കണം. ഡെലിവറി കൊടുക്കുമ്പം ആ ഫീൽ ചെയ്ത ആൾ പരസ്പരം സംസാരിക്കണം. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഒരുപാട് റിവാർഡ്സും അവാർഡ്സും വരുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ അടുത്ത കാലത്ത് എനിക്ക് കിട്ടിയതിൽ ഏറ്റവും ബെസ്റ്റ് പ്ലേസ് ഇൻ വർക്കിംഗ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് മലബാറിന് കിട്ടിയ അവാർഡാണ്. ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ഒരുപാട് കോർപ്പറേറ്റുകളോട് മത്സരിച്ച് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ ഏറ്റവും ബെസ്റ്റ് പ്ലേസാണ്. കാരണം എംപ്ലോയി ഫ്രണ്ട്ലിയാണ്. ആ എംപ്ലോയി ഫ്രണ്ട്ലി അവാർഡ് കിട്ടിയതിനാണ് ഞാൻ ഏറ്റവും സന്തോഷിച്ചത്. കാരണം ഞങ്ങളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു എംപ്ലോയിക്ക് എപ്പോഴും മലബാറിൽ ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാം, അവരുടെ ഫണ്ട് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ. ഒരു ഇൻവെസ്റ്റർക്ക് എപ്പോഴും എംപ്ലോയി ആകാൻ പറ്റില്ല, അയാൾ ക്വാളിഫൈഡ് ആയിരിക്കണം. അത് കമ്പനി പോളിസിയാണ്. ഞങ്ങൾ 15,000 ആൾക്കാരും അവരെ ബ്രാൻഡായിട്ടാണ് മലബാറിനെ ഏറ്റെടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. അവർ ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെൻ്റ് ഉണ്ടോ ഇല്ലെന്നില്ല. ആ രീതിയിലാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ഓപ്പറേഷനും സിസ്റ്റമൊക്കെ. കൂടെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന എനിക്കും സാലറി ഉണ്ട്. ഞാനും ചെയർമാനാണ്. ക്ലീനിങ് ബോയ് മുതൽ ഞാൻ വരെ എല്ലാം ഒരേ പൊസിഷൻ. എല്ലാവരെയും പ്രസ്റ്റേജാണ് ഏറ്റവും വലുത്. ആ പ്രസ്റ്റേജും അന്തസ്സും നമ്മൾ അംഗീകരിക്കുന്നു, ബഹുമാനിക്കുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ കൂട്ടായ്മയാണ്, ഒരു ടീമിൻ്റെ വർക്കാണ്, ടീം വർക്കാണ് മലബാർ ഗോൾഡിൻ്റെ വളർച്ച. ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ ഇഷ്ടംമാതിരി ഉണ്ട്. ആൾക്കാരുടെ അടുത്തൊക്കെ ഫണ്ടുണ്ട്. നിങ്ങൾ കളക്റ്റീവ് ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെൻറ്റും കളക്റ്റീവ് ജോബും കണ്ടെത്തുക. സിംഗിൾ മാൻ ബിസിനസ് കാണുന്ന കാലഘട്ടമൊക്കെ പോയി. ഇനി നിങ്ങൾ ഒരു ടീം ഓഫ് ഇൻവെസ്റ്റേഴ്സിനെയും ടീം ഓഫ് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാരെയും ബുദ്ധിയും കഴിവുള്ള ഒരുപാട് ആൾക്കാർ യൂത്ത് നല്ലോണം നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലുണ്ട്. ഇന്ത്യ എന്നല്ല, ലോകത്ത് മൊത്തം ഇന്ത്യൻ ബിസിനസ് കൈയടക്കുന്ന ഒരു കാലഘട്ടം വരും. ഇന്ത്യൻ ബിസിനസ് ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യും. ഇന്ത്യൻ ബ്രാൻഡ് ഞങ്ങൾ ടാർഗറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഇന്ത്യൻ ബ്രാൻഡ് ലോകത്തെ മൊത്തം കൊണ്ടുപോകുക എന്നുള്ളത്. ഇന്ന് ഞങ്ങളതിൻ്റെ ടോപ്പ് 5 എത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇനിയും ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് നമ്പർ 1 ആവുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ ടാർഗറ്റ്. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അടുത്ത ഭാവിയിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്കത് സാധിക്കും. അതിന് വേണ്ടിയുള്ള മാനുഫാക്ചറിങ് സിസ്റ്റങ്ങൾ ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ഏതാണ്ട് എല്ലാ സ്റ്റേറ്റുകളിലും ഞങ്ങൾ ഫാക്ടറികൾ സ്ഥാപിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു. ഡയമണ്ട് കട്ടിങ് പോളിഷ് മുതൽ ഗോൾഡ് മാനുഫാക്ചറിങ് സിസ്റ്റങ്ങൾ, ഒരുപാട് ഡിസൈൻസും ഒക്കെ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ലോകത്ത് എവിടെയൊക്കെ സ്ത്രീയും പുരുഷനുണ്ടോ അവിടെയൊക്കെ സ്നേഹവും ബന്ധവുമുണ്ട്. അവിടെയൊക്കെ ഒരു ഗിഫ്റ്റിംഗ് ഉണ്ട്. അതിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്കൊരു സാന്നിധ്യം കിട്ടിയിരിക്കണം. ഒരു ഗിഫ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ട്, ഉറപ്പാണ്. ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു സമയത്ത് ഒരു ഗിഫ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. ആ ഗിഫ്റ്റിംഗ് കുട്ടി ജനിക്കുമ്പോണ്ട്, മെച്യൂരിറ്റി ആകുമ്പോണ്ട്, കല്യാണം കഴിക്കുമ്പോണ്ട്, 60 വയസ്സാകുമ്പോണ്ട്, പല സമയങ്ങളിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും അച്ചീവ്മെൻ്റ് ആകുമ്പോണ്ട്, പല പ്രാവശ്യങ്ങളിലെ ഗിഫ്റ്റിംഗ് ഉണ്ട്. ബർത്ത്ഡേക്ക് ഉണ്ട്, വെഡ്ഡിങ് ആനിവേഴ്സറിക്ക് ഉണ്ട്. ഈ ഗിഫ്റ്റിങ്ങിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് എങ്ങനെ അവരെ സഹായിക്കാൻ പറ്റും, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവരെ പാർട്ടാകാൻ പറ്റും, ഇതാണ് ചിന്തിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അതിനുള്ള കമ്മിറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് എങ്ങനെ കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റും. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഞങ്ങൾ വലിയൊരു ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി വേൾഡ് കാണുന്നുണ്ട്. അതുപോലെ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ ബിസിനസ് ജെയിൻസിൻ്റെ അടുത്തും ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് പറയാനുള്ളത് ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസ് ഉണ്ട്, ഒരുപാട് ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസ് ഉണ്ട്, എല്ലാ രംഗത്തുണ്ട്. ആ ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസ് എടുക്കണമെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ ടീമായിട്ട് ആത്മാർത്ഥമായിട്ട് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യണം. ഒരിക്കലും ഒരു പ്രയാസവും ടെൻഷനൊന്നുമില്ല. കോവിഡ് വന്നു, സാമ്പത്തിക മാന്ദ്യം, ഇതൊക്കെ വന്നും പോയിക്കൊണ്ടേയിരിക്കും. സാമ്പത്തിക മാന്ദ്യം വരും, അതിനേക്കാളും സ്പീഡിൽ വീണ്ടും തിരിച്ചു വരും. ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് റേറ്റ് കുറയ്ക്കണം എന്നാണ് ഈ കൂട്ടുന്ന ഗവൺമെൻറ്. പണപ്പെരുപ്പം കൂടിയും മറ്റ് ബാങ്കുകളൊക്കെ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് റേറ്റ് കൂടുന്നത് തെറ്റാണ് എന്ന്. കാരണം ഇത്രയും ആൾക്ക് ജോലി കിട്ടണമെങ്കിൽ എൻ്റർപ്രണേഴ്സിന് ലോണ് കിട്ടണം. ഇൻവെസ്റ്റേഴ്സ് വെറുതെ ബാങ്കിൽ പണം ഇട്ടിട്ട് പലിശ മേടിച്ചാൽ പോരാ, അവരെ ഫണ്ട് റൊട്ടേഷൻ ചെയ്യണം. അങ്ങനെ വേണമെങ്കിൽ പബ്ലിക് ലിമിറ്റഡ് കമ്പനികളും പ്രൈവറ്റ് ലിമിറ്റഡ് കമ്പനികൾ ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് കമ്പനികൾ വരണം. ഇന്ത്യ ഒരു ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കുന്ന രീതിയിലായിരിക്കണം. അതുപോലെ കാർഷിക രംഗത്തും നമ്മൾ സ്വയം പര്യാപ്തത എത്തിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നതാണ്. വളരെയധികം മുന്നോട്ട് പോകാനുണ്ട്. പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും കേരളം പോലത്തെ ഏറ്റവും നല്ല കാലാവസ്ഥ, മാക്സിമം പോയാൽ 19-18 ഡിഗ്രി തണുപ്പ്, മാക്സിമം 36-38 ഡിഗ്രി ചൂടുള്ളൂ. ഈ ഒരു കാലാവസ്ഥയിൽ നമ്മുടെ ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ സ്വന്തം നാട്ടിൽ ഒരുപാട് ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസ് ഉണ്ട്. എല്ലാവരും ബന്ധുക്കളെയും സുഹൃത്തുക്കളെയും പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കുക. നല്ല ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി ഉണ്ട്. കൂട്ടായ്മ ഉള്ള ഒരു പ്രവൃത്തി. അതിൽ ഈ ജോയിൻറ്റ് ബിസിനസ്സിന് വേണ്ടത് ട്രസ്റ്റാണ്. പരസ്പരം ചീറ്റ് ചെയ്യരുത്, പ്രത്യേകം സ്മാർട്ട്നെസ് ഒന്നും കാണിക്കരുത്. എല്ലാവരെയും ഒരുപോലെ കാണാനും അവരെല്ലാവരെയും ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് പ്രൊട്ടക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ നമ്മൾ തയ്യാറായിരിക്കണം. പലപ്പോഴും ബിസിനസ് പാർട്ണർഷിപ്പ് പൊട്ടിപ്പോകാറുണ്ട്. എനിക്ക് 4500 ഇൻവെസ്റ്റേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്, ഒരു കുട്ടിക്ക് ഇന്ന് വരെ അഭിപ്രായ വ്യത്യാസമില്ല, 10-15 ജീവനക്കാരുണ്ട്. എല്ലാം അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു മാനേജ്മെൻറ്റ്. കാരണം അവരെല്ലാം റൈറ്റ് നമ്മൾ 100% അംഗീകരിച്ച് കൊടുക്കണം. ഇതിനൊക്കെ പുറമെ ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ അനുഗ്രഹം നമുക്ക് കിട്ടണമെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ വരുമാനത്തിൻ്റെ ഇതൊന്നും സാധ്യതയില്ലാത്ത ആൾക്കാർക്ക് മാറ്റി ഞങ്ങൾ 5%, പ്രോഫിറ്റിൻ്റെ നെറ്റ് 5%. ഈ ഇയറിൽ ഏകദേശം 100 കോടി രൂപ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് CSRലേക്ക് മാറ്റി വെക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്. അതിൽ വീടില്ലാത്തവർക്ക് വീട് കൊടുക്കാനും മരുന്ന് കൊടുക്കാനും അതുപോലെ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനും വുമൺ എംപവർമെൻറ്റും അങ്ങനെ വേണ്ട പലതിനുമായിട്ട് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് മാറ്റി വെക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഒരുപാട് ഗവൺമെൻറ്റുകളായിട്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ സഹകരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതുപോലെ NGOs ആയിട്ട് സഹകരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. NGOസും ഗവൺമെൻറ്റൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട് സഹകരിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ ഒരുപാട് ചാരിറ്റി പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ എങ്ങനെ നടക്കാം. CSR ചാരിറ്റി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം നമ്മളെ കടമ നിർവഹിക്കുന്നു. അതിലാണ് സന്തോഷം. നമുക്ക് അവസാനം ഹാപ്പിനെസ് വരുന്നത് എവിടെയാണ്? നമ്മളെ കൊണ്ട് കുറേ ആൾക്കാർ രക്ഷപ്പെടുകയും സന്തോഷിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ, നമ്മൾ കാരണം ഒരുപാട് ആൾക്കാർ സന്തോഷിക്കുമ്പോൾ നമ്മളറിയാതെ നമുക്ക് സന്തോഷം വരും. അതിലാണ് നമ്മൾ സന്തോഷം കാണുന്നത്. നമ്മളെ കണ്ട് ഒരുപാട് ആൾക്കാർ സന്തോഷിക്കാനുള്ള കാരണങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാവട്ടെ. ഇനിയും ഒരുപാട് ഉയർച്ച എല്ലാവർക്കും ഉണ്ടാവട്ടെ. ധനം മാഗസിൻ്റെ എല്ലാവർക്കും, ഇതിൻ്റെ ജൂറി അംഗങ്ങൾക്കും, ജൂറി അംഗങ്ങൾ നവാസ് എൻ്റെ ഒരു പഴയ സുഹൃത്താണ്. ഞങ്ങളൊരു CSR ഒക്കെ കുറച്ച് ജോയിൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടൊക്കെ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അതുപോലെ മറ്റെല്ലാവരെയും എനിക്കാരെയും പരിചയമില്ല അധികം. എല്ലാവർക്കും എൻ്റെ നന്ദി അഭിനന്ദനങ്ങൾ അർപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ നിർത്തുന്നു. ജയ് ഹിന്ദ്.
Trust and transparency are truly the hallmarks of this man. Loud round of applause once more for this business wizard. സ്വന്തം ബ്രാൻഡിൻ്റെ USP ഇത്ര ഓപ്പൺ ആയിട്ട് പറയുന്ന മറ്റ് അധികം ബിസിനസ്സുകാരുണ്ടാവില്ല. Hats off to you, sir. May I request all the winners to come back on stage once more for that happy picture. Sir പറഞ്ഞു നിർത്തിയത് സന്തോഷത്തെക്കുറിച്ചാണ്. നമുക്ക് നല്ല സന്തോഷമായിട്ട് ചിരിച്ച് ഒരു ഫോട്ടോ എടുക്കാം. All of you, please come back on stage. Yes, with the trophy would be really nice. Ladies and gentlemen, the superstars of tonight coming on stage together with our dignitaries as well for that final photo which encapsulates all the action that has happened on this stage tonight. Not just on this stage tonight, but also the fabulous business action that has happened in the last year. And they are indicative of the fabulous success we collectively achieved last year despite all the challenges. And so many inspiring stories here. ഇവിടെ 6 പേര് ട്രോഫി മേടിക്കുമ്പോൾ these stories will inspire so many more people to do so much more. Not just for themselves, but also for the society, for the country. അവിടെയാണ് അഹമ്മദ് സർ പറഞ്ഞു നിർത്തിയത്. ഒരു ബിസിനസ്സും അവർക്ക് വേണ്ടി മാത്രമല്ലാതെ സമൂഹത്തിന് വേണ്ടി കൂടിയാകുമ്പോഴാണ് it becomes meaningful. Let's strive to do more business of that sort, where not just the business, but also the community benefits. And all of these people on stage today are true representatives of that value, that idea. Hearty congratulations once more to these 6 winners of Dhanam Business Awards 2021. D-Day 2022 is coming to a colorful close with this group photo that's being captured here. And while that goes on, I'd also like to invite on stage Ms. T.S. Geena, the Associate Editor of Dhanam Publications, to formally thank all of you. Welcome, Geena. Yes.
ധനത്തിൻ്റെ കരുത്തായ പ്രിയപ്പെട്ടവരെ, നമസ്കാരം. ലോകമെമ്പാടുമുള്ള മലയാളി സംരംഭകർ ഒരിക്കലെങ്കിലും സമ്പത്തിക്കണമെന്ന് ഏറെ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന ധനം ബിസിനസ് സമ്മിറ്റ് ആൻഡ് അവാർഡ് നൈറ്റിൻ്റെ 14ാമത് എഡിഷൻ സമാപിക്കുകയാണ്. കോവിഡ് സൃഷ്ടിച്ച 2 വർഷത്തെ ഇടവേളയ്ക്ക് ശേഷം തിരിച്ചെത്തിയ ബിസിനസ് കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഈ മെഗാ സംഗമം വലിയൊരു വിജയമാക്കി തീർത്ത ഏവരോടും നന്ദി പറയാൻ അതിയായ സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. രാജ്യം ഏറെ സങ്കീർണമായ സാഹചര്യങ്ങളെ അഭിമുഖീകരിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരുന്ന ഒരു കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ ക്യാബിനറ്റ് സെക്രട്ടറി പദവി വഹിച്ചിരുന്ന സമുന്നതനായ IAS ഓഫീസർ എന്നതിലുപരി കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ബിസിനസ് സമൂഹത്തിന് ഏറെ പരിചിതനാണ് ശ്രീ KM ചന്ദ്രശേഖർ. കേരളത്തിലെ വ്യവസായ ധനകാര്യ മേഖലകളിലെ പല നൂതനമായ ആശയങ്ങൾക്ക് പിന്നിലും ഇദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ കയ്യൊപ്പ് പതിഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. സർവീസിൽ നിന്ന് വിരമിച്ച ശേഷം ആസൂത്രണ ബോർഡിൻ്റെ ഉപാധ്യക്ഷനായും സേവനമനുഷ്ഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ശ്രീ KM ചന്ദ്രശേഖർ മാറിയ ആഗോള ദേശീയ സാഹചര്യങ്ങളിൽ കേരളത്തിന് സ്വീകരിക്കാവുന്ന വളർച്ചാ തന്ത്രങ്ങളാണ് ഇന്നിവിടെ വിവരിച്ചത്. D-Day 2022 മുഖ്യാതിഥിയായി സംബന്ധിക്കാനുള്ള ക്ഷണം സ്വീകരിച്ച് ഇവിടെ വന്ന് നമുക്കൊപ്പം സമയം ചെലവിടുകയും കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുകൾ പങ്കുവയ്ക്കുകയും ചെയ്ത ശ്രീ KM ചന്ദ്രശേഖറിന് ധനത്തിൻ്റെ പേരിൽ നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. ധനം ബിസിനസ് സമ്മിറ്റ് ആൻഡ് അവാർഡ് നൈറ്റിൻ്റെ ഓരോ എഡിഷനും ബിസിനസ് മേഖലയിലെ വരും കാലത്തെ വരച്ചിടുന്ന പ്രവചന സ്വഭാവമുള്ള പ്രഭാഷണങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ടുകൂടിയാണ് വേറിട്ട് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. ഇന്ന് ഈ വേദിയിൽ മുഖ്യപ്രഭാഷണം നിർവഹിച്ച ഇന്ത്യൻ ഇ-കൊമേഴ്സ് രംഗത്ത് വിപ്ലവം സൃഷ്ടിക്കാനൊരുങ്ങുന്ന ഓപ്പൺ നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഫോർ ഡിജിറ്റൽ കൊമേഴ്സിൻ്റെ മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടറും ചീഫ് എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ഓഫീസറുമായ ശ്രീ T. കോശിക്ക് ധനത്തിൻ്റെയും ഇവിടെ സന്നിഹിതരായിരിക്കുന്ന ഓരോരുത്തരുടെയും പേരിലും നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. നമുക്കറിയാം, കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷങ്ങൾ അങ്ങേയറ്റം പ്രതിബന്ധങ്ങൾ നിറഞ്ഞതായിരുന്നു. അസാധാരണ കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ അസാധാരണ നേട്ടങ്ങൾ സ്വന്തമാക്കിയവരാണ് ഈ വർഷത്തെ ധനം ബിസിനസ് എക്സലൻസ് അവാർഡ് ജേതാക്കൾ. കോർപ്പറേറ്റ് കേരളം ഏറെ വിലമതിക്കുന്ന പുരസ്കാരങ്ങൾ ഏറ്റുവാങ്ങാനെത്തിയ മലബാർ ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ചെയർമാൻ MP അഹമ്മദ്, ജ്യോതി ലാബ്സ് മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടർ MR ജ്യോതി, മാൻ കൻകോർ ഇൻഗ്രീഡിയൻസ് പ്രൈവറ്റ് ലിമിറ്റഡ് എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ഡയറക്ടറും ചീഫ് എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ഓഫീസറുമായ ജിമോൻ കോര, ബ്രാഹ്മിൻസ് ഫുഡ് മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടർ ശ്രീനാഥ് വിഷ്ണു, SFC ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ചെയർമാൻ K. മുരളീധരൻ, ഓപ്പൺ സ്ഥാപകരായ അനീഷ് അച്യുതൻ, മേബിൾ ചാക്കോ, അജീഷ് അച്യുതൻ എന്നിവർക്ക് ധനത്തിൻ്റെ പേരിൽ നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. ധനം എക്സലൻസ് അവാർഡ് ജേതാക്കളെ നിർണയിച്ച പ്രമുഖ സാമ്പത്തിക വിദഗ്ധനും ചാർട്ടേഡ് അക്കൗണ്ടന്റുമായ വേണുഗോപാൽ C. ഗോവിന്ദൻ്റെ നേതൃത്വത്തിലുള്ള ജൂറിക്കും ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ നന്ദി പറയുകയാണ്. ബിസിനസ് കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഈ മെഗാ ഇവൻറ്റ് വളരെ മികച്ച രീതിയിൽ നടത്താൻ ധനത്തിനൊപ്പം നിന്ന സ്പോൺസർമാർക്കും ഞങ്ങളുടെ നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുന്നു. അവാർഡ് നിശയെ വർണ്ണാഭമാക്കിയ ഇവൻറ്റ് മാനേജ്മെൻറ്റ് ടീമിനും അവതാരക ആർദ്ര ബാലചന്ദ്രനും ധനത്തിൻ്റെയും ഇവിടെ സന്നിഹിതരായിരിക്കുന്ന ഏവരുടെയും പേരിലും നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. ധനം അണിയിച്ചൊരുക്കുന്ന ഓരോ ഇവൻറ്റും ഒന്നിനൊന്ന് മികച്ചതാക്കാൻ അഹോരാത്രം പ്രയത്നിക്കുന്നത് എൻ്റെ സഹപ്രവർത്തകർ കൂടിയായ ധനം ടീം അംഗങ്ങളാണ്. അവർക്ക് എൻ്റെ നന്ദി. D-Day 2022 സമ്പന്നമാക്കാൻ ഇവരെ നേരിട്ടെത്തുകയും ഓൺലൈൻ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോമിലൂടെ സംബന്ധിക്കുകയും ചെയ്ത ഓരോരുത്തർക്കും ഹിരത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഷയിൽ നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുകയാണ്. അധികം വൈകാതെ ധനത്തിൻ്റെ മറ്റൊരു ഇവൻറ്റിൽ വെച്ച് ഇനിയും കണ്ടുമുട്ടാമെന്ന പ്രതീക്ഷയോടെ വാക്കുകൾ ചുരുക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി.
Thank you, Geena, and we hope that this evening inspires all of us to achieve more business success more meaningfully. Here is to next edition of Dhanam D-Day 2023. We'll see you there. But for now, have a great evening and join us for the dinner that's arranged in the space adjacent to this hall, Oman Hall. Thank you. Have a great evening.